early, baby. Set it early.
You're listening to All Chiefed Up, the best damn Kansas City Chiefs podcast in the kingdom.
Chiefs Kingdom, thanks for being with us here on your lunch break. This is an early day live, Steve, but we're back with a live podcast for that ass. Steve, we got some breaking news today, and I'm sure that people's probably seen it. You know, we live in the modern day of technology where you get an alert on your phone, you get an alert on your watch, you get an alert, you have an alert right up your butt. It just tells you everything. But the big news, we had two pieces, Steve. MVS has been released. MVS, Steve. Are we back to calling him that? Or round of applause. Look, I appreciate what he did, though.
Listen, we don't have to get into all that just yet. We don't have to act like we care. Come on, man. So
we don't care.
Here's the beautiful thing about it. Is this really breaking news? Is it really news?
Yeah, haven't we been telling people this?
I think anyone with common sense knew they weren't going to keep his lousy ass around. I mean, I'm sorry. He caught a couple of balls in the playoffs and was clutch. And okay, cool. Thank you, MVS. Awesome. But good Lord, man. Besides, like,
it didn't even get to double-digit catches.
There were things that weren't catching the ball or big plays that MVS did right. There were. But for the money he was making, he was not producing, not even close.
Right.
So, I mean, it is what it is. And then, of course, we'll get to that more in a minute, but L'Jarius Sneed tagged, also something we knew was going to happen. We still don't know what the future is for L'Jarius Sneed because we knew they had to tag him regardless. So, like I said, is it really huge news? Probably not, but it's good news. It's good news either way you look at it.
Right. If you've been watching the channel, look, it's no secret. We said that at the end of this year, MVS was being dropped. We had no doubt about it. People said, but, what about the Cincinnati playoff game in his year one? Nobody cares. But, what about his playoff catches? We wouldn't have even won a game. You might be right there, but you still can't run wind sprints and make 11 to 12 million per year. You can't do it. Like, we knew it.
Del Monte, come on. Come on.
No,
why do we have to act like somebody's good? Just because they played for the Chiefs doesn't mean that we have to act like they were great at football.
And by the way, I'm not going to backtrack anything we said. No. We called him MVS. I'll stick to it. I'm not going to come on here and tell you I didn't say that. You know,
I almost took it away during the playoffs in the Super Bowl.
We contemplated taking it away.
Well, I almost did, and I was there, and then he pulled a DeMarcus Robinson and ran backwards on one of the most pivotal drives in the entire season. He runs backwards 20 yards. That was it. The ass went back, and it was permanently there, and it'll stay there.
It's not a surprise, though, he got cut. It just really isn't. The money was not there. It didn't make sense. I didn't like that signing since the beginning. I didn't really think MVS was going to be a big deal. Actually, when we made the signing of like $30-some million over 3 years, I just wasn't for it. Like, a lot of people didn't like MVS across the board because the same stigmas that he was carrying from Green Bay reared their heads over here in KC. It really did. Like, he could not catch the ball.
That is what he is.
That's what, dude, when he was evaluated at college, we seen all this. That was a big whiff, in my opinion, by Brett Veach. But he's going to correct it. We said he's going to overcorrect the wide receiver room. It's time. But let's go to L'Jarius Sneed. Iron Price is a member. Appreciate you, Iron Price.
Heck yeah, man.
Let's look at Sneed for a minute. We said this last week that we thought L'Jarius Sneed was probably more of a tag option than Chris Jones because we were hearing they want to work with Chris Jones. We were hearing that Sneed, they didn't want him to walk for nothing. So they're going to try to tag him, try to work on a deal, and if not, they'll listen to trade offers. And I think everything's on the board, Steve, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was the thing with Sneed. It was like Sneed is literally the best corner in football last season, right? But the Chiefs don't like to pay corners a big bunch of money. So, I mean, it's still kind of up in the air, like what's going to happen there. But we knew they had to tag him because why would you just let him walk? If you
Right.
can tag him and trade him, at least you get something in return as far as draft picks or whatever. But I mean, that was just a common sense thing to do with L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, I agree. I believe Sneed. Now, look, if we get to the point where we have to trade L'Jarius Sneed, if you can't make something work, I think Chiefs Kingdom need to dampen their expectations on what you think we'll get from him. I do not believe you're going to be in the ballpark of a round 1 pick. That's not going to happen, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am in that situation. I don't think it's a round 1 you're going to get from Sneed. Round 2, possibly. I think round 2 is right in the ballpark.
Yeah,
round
I don't see getting a first round pick for Sneed. I don't.
No, I say round 2, but the latest I go for Sneed is actually maybe a early round 3. And then, then, you better be throwing on some late round picks as well. But we'll talk about all that a little bit more, Steve. The combine's coming up. I mean, they're already in Indianapolis, but they start doing all the drills. I want to say tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is how they do it. They divide up all the positions. There's a lot of people there to watch, and we'll get into that. But we still got a little free agency to cover. Last time we covered running backs, tight ends, wide receivers.
Right. Well, now I think we should take just a couple minutes to revisit the wide receiver one now. Because, now the MVS is cut, which was a common sense thing. I mean, they were never going to pay him $15 million this year.
Right.
There's just no way. Like, so it's like now that he was cut, what does that do, Mike? Does it tell you that they're gonna go sign like a bigger name, not necessarily the biggest like Mike Evans, but does that mean they're gonna go sign a $15 million guy now that they just saved $12 million in cap? Or do you think?
I think that Brett Veach is laying the groundwork here, though, right? We said that, look, to create some more cap space, which they were somewhere around the 25 to 30, somewhere in that range. You went up $30 million this year, okay? But we also said you could save a lot by converting a lot of Patrick Mahomes' contract. You could redo Tooney. You had to cut MVS. That saves you 12 to 13, somewhere in that ballpark. You had to do all this. This is the first, initial domino to fall, right?
Right. Yeah.
Lewis, if Cornell Powell.
Y'all got to give up on Cornell Powell already.
Yeah, I think we can all, that
guy's never going to be
Does Cornell... Why is Cornell becoming the new Justin Ross?
No, Cornell Powell's just the token practice squad guy, right? Like, he's never going to be more than that. Like, even if he were to make the squad, he's not going to be on the field. Like, maybe a
Cornell Powell. Look, I like Cornell Powell, and he did show a lot of improvement over these past few years. But he's just not like, he doesn't have the twitchiness. He don't have the separation ability. I don't see it. But, Yogi, member for 4 months, he says, I just want to see a deal done with CJ in the next 2 weeks. Can't take another long offseason waiting for news. I think Sneed is going to get traded. Yogi, I'm right there with you. I think that's the way it will be.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, I don't know. If they did come up with something with Sneed, I wouldn't be like super surprised with the extra cap.
No, but I do think CJ is first on the list 100%. To take care of.
I think 100%.
Well, here's my thing.
What do you think that looks like, Mike? Do you think it's like a 3 years, $90 million thing, or what do you think?
Right. I mean, I don't know if you're in the ballpark of the 30. I think he's got to come down to probably 28 and a half-ish, which, if I'm not mistaken, Spot Rack has now got his value under 30 million, his estimated market value. They have put it at 28 and a half, somewhere in that range. So I do believe now that you can sign him under 30, but to make Chris Jones happy, you can still make some incentive-based. You can give him more money up front.
How about just 3 years, 80 to 85 million guaranteed?
And just be like, look, you get it.
Right. I mean, like, no matter what happens.
But don't they have to do CJ first? Because if you mess around and you give L'Jarius Sneed a contract that looks a little too big in comparison to what a top 5 NFL player does, now he's going to say, no.
Right.
You paid him, pay me. So they have to do Chris Jones first, I believe. I think that's the way it works.
Well, absolutely. And Brett Veach said yesterday in his press conference that is the top of the priority list.
Right.
So,
but look, if you're just now joining us, we appreciate you. Hit that like button for us. Get in the comment section. Talk to the ACU crew. By the way, become a member. Join.allchiefedup.com. It's only $5 a month. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/allchiefedup. If you listen to podcasts, go to Spotify, go to Apple, anywhere. We're all on there. We've got tons and tons of content. We're getting out as much stuff as we can. Lewis says he was joking, by the way. Lewis, you had to be joking. I don't
that's
think
the thing about
could...
it. There's so many people that aren't joking about that.
Yeah,
like
we've heard that a lot. We've heard a lot of things. But yeah, appreciate you guys being here. If you haven't hit the sub button, hit the sub button. We're trying to get to 25K. And Steve, we're so close. This Saturday, we could be at 25K, and we should be at 25K. We may make Saturday a 25K party and a combine party and just all kinds of parties. We might just party it up.
All kinds of parties.
And still a back-to-back Super Bowl party. We're partying hard here in KC. The kingdom is rocking. Don't come a knocking, baby. That's what it is.
Also, I don't even know if I told you yet, but I think I want to say it's 99% confirmed. But Lance wants me to come on the Spoken on Saturday, so I might be on the Spoken on Saturday.
Oh no, this is a big one. Lance goes live early, Steve. You have to be up early on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's like 1 Eastern time. We're all good.
Okay.
No, but yeah, it's going to be a full Saturday, man.
Go get on there. Go on there and ruffle some feathers, Steve. Go tell Lance that your beard is better than his beard.
Well, that would be a lie.
That is a lie. Steve, let's look at some free agents really quick. Let's look at wide receiver though now. This is what we said. This was our list. Marquise Brown was at number 1. He's at somewhere around the 15 million mark. We liked Curtis Samuel. We thought he played in the Bieniemy system. We thought Bieniemy may give us a little insight to him. He's somewhere around the 11 million mark. And of course, Chiefs Kingdom's all horned up over Darnell Mooney because a few people on Twitter said that was a lock. It's not a lock, by the way. It's not a lock. If it happens, cool. There's probably a 50-50 shot that it happens.
Is it likely? Well, you have him number 3 on the list for a reason.
Right. It's likely, but I don't think it's a lock. It's not a lock.
Not a lock.
Calvin Ridley, $17-ish million a year is what they're projecting him to make, but he is touching 30. But we do think he brings a lot, especially in the red zone. KJ Osborne, the more cheap option. He's more the McCole Hardman, the more dynamic guy. Then also you got McCole Hardman on there. By the way, they said they were open to re-signing McCole Hardman yesterday, Steve. If the contract's right, they're open to it. And McCole Hardman has been dogging the Jets. Number 7, Mike Evans. A lot of people wanting to see Mike Evans. A lot of people predicting him to the Chiefs now that the extra cap has hit. He's still going to be somewhere around the 23 to 25 million mark. Then we have Amir Smith-Marset. People's been loving this one. But he's on the list because he was cheap and he knows the system and it's a camp body. You may bring him back in on a cheap contract and say, look, do what you did last year. Maybe this year you make the team. What do you got here? Daniel Akers.
Yeah, he's just saying he can't find where to become a member. If you can't find a join button, it should be on our actual YouTube homepage, or you can actually type in on your search bar join.allchiefedup.com, and it should take you directly to it.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people's having trouble finding this. It's supposed to be right under the video. Now, you will have to click off the chat because this is a live stream. You have to click off the chat and go back to the view without the chat. That's what you have to do. Getting back to the list, Michael Pittman Jr., it looks like he's going to be tagged just like T. Higgins, but he does say he will be back in 2024. And then Tyler Boyd, not thrilled with Tyler Boyd. To be honest, I just don't think Tyler Boyd's a great pickup with the Chiefs. I don't feel like he has much to offer this offense in a way.
Enrique with the gifted membership. Appreciate you, Enrique. Hope you're doing good, bud. And then we got Chris Wright to the legend himself with 10 gifted. Chris. We appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. Throw some legendaries in the chat for Enrique and Chris, right?
Enrique and Chris coming in hot on a Wednesday lunch hour. I hope you guys are on. If you're on lunch break, I hope you're spending it with All Chiefed Up. You're enjoying the news today. But before we let you guys, get back to the work that you so desire to be at, I know you do, because guess what? Steve, is there not anything more that anybody likes to do than to just go to work and spend all your time for other people?
It's probably the most annoying thing about life, right?
Right. Before we jump into the new one, Steve, because we're gonna touch on left tackle today. Left tackle. We're going to touch on defensive end and defensive tackle. That's the 3 we're going to look at. But before we go on, now that MVS has been cut, is any of these more likely? Are you still on the Mike Evans train? Like, what do you think will happen here? Or do you think the Chiefs just say, nay, we'll go to the draft again?
I don't know, man. I kind of feel like where I've been at is like I feel like it's time that they actually sign a proven guy. Like we've gone year after year after year being like, oh, Patrick Mahomes can throw to the guy in the first row. We don't have to have a receiver. Or
I'm still hearing it.
Right. I mean, it's going to happen. That's just what that's like a common thing people say.
Because we don't have money.
And then, of course, we've drafted 1 million second-round wide receivers. And so far, out of all of them, the only one that's even slightly panned out is a guy we drafted last year, Rashee Rice. So I think it's time they go ahead and sign somebody that we know can play the damn position, Mike. We don't have to do any extra thinking about it or anything. Like, okay, let's just go sign a guy. Like, whether you want to spend $24 million a year and get Mike Evans, who you know is going to give you 1,000 yards, a red zone threat, and be an absolute force, then okay. Or is it going to be a $15 million guy like Hollywood Brown? They're going to do something. I think this is the year that they actually pull the trigger on something like that.
Right. JCP, our boy JCP with a 10 bomb, he says, what position do you think we draft in the first round? Let the boy watch.
Let the boy watch.
Look, a lot of people say wide receiver. I'm under the estimation. Look, I've been reviewing this roster with a fine-tooth comb going through all this stuff. And the more and more I look, I still don't know if wide receiver is the most pressing need. It feels like it in a game-to-game basis. But if you see the amount of defensive front players, our defensive line, if you see the amount we do not have and what we actually have under contract, good grief, like that should scare you a little bit, especially if you want to keep building this roster. If you lose Sneed, that might make signing another corner, maybe not a top tier guy, but you may want to go that route again. Probably not early though.
I think even if
what do you
they
think,
trade
Steve,
Sneed,
is the first round pick if you had to pick right now?
I have no idea. It's going to be the best player on their board between the positions. Well, actually, you know what? With Brett Veach, I don't even think it matters. I think it could be a defensive end. It could be a left tackle. It could be a wide receiver. You never know with Veach. It could be a freaking linebacker. Like, it's whoever.
Let's hope not.
I know. I'm not saying that they will, but I'm just saying the way he does things. It's like he's going to have a list of players, right? Him and Andy and all the guys are going to have a list. Whoever's highest on that list come that pick, that's who they're going to take.
Right. If I had to shoot a guess right now, I don't think it's a wide receiver. This left tackle class, or this tackle class in general, some can go to left, some have to be stuck at right. Some are swing tackles that can go up and down the board. They're probably 7, 8, 9 deep that could get in the first 50 picks. This is a good time to need a tackle. That could be a possibility. The left tackle could be a possibility if you can't get something worked out with Donovan Smith to come back for a year, or just any of the free agents, because we're going to touch on that in just a second. But the left tackle could be a possibility. And I am not ruling out another edge rusher. I'm not doing it. And you're going to find out why in just a minute. And by the way, there's a name I keep throwing around in my head, and I'm like, my God, that's a Spags guy. And if you know him, Missouri, if we got any Missouri fans, we know that he is starting to catch on. He's starting to be a darling of everything. There's a guy. I'm not going to say who it is or whatever. We all know who it is. It's Darius Robinson. But that's a guy. Darius Robinson could be a guy. I could see them if he falls to pick 32. That could be another pick.
Appreciate the 10, JCP, and then a 5 bomb from Javier Sanchez's MVS regular season, but MVS playoffs. I mean, it pretty much sums it up. I mean, he was good in the playoffs. I wouldn't even say great. I think the thing about it is, Mike, like MVS's expectations, like the bar was so low by the time the playoffs got here. The fact that he caught a ball made everyone think he was doing good.
Yes, sure.
That's what was going on there.
100%. Appreciate the 5, Javi.
Yeah, y'all put some legendaries in the chat for
our
JCP
boy
and Javier.
Casey, I hope you remember. Ridley is perfect, Steve. Good speed, great route running, and twitchy. I know you're down with that. I think Ridley might be the number 1 on your board if you took money out of the equation, right? Well, besides Mike Evans.
Yeah, Evans is the clear.
I think you're a Mike Evans guy, but I do think that you're a firm. Ridley, I believe, for you is one of the only few guys on that list that can come in and you think be a super big number 1 playmaker right off the rip, because you're tired of the You're tired of the role player guys that we
Pretty
just don't know
much.
what you're going to get.
I mean, that's like the bottom of where I want them to be looking, right? Like, well, I don't know if I'd say bottom, but like
When you scrape the bottom of the barrel, Steve, you want to pull out a Mike Evans at the bottom of the barrel.
At the bottom of the barrel right now, I want to pull out a Curtis Samuel.
What's the top of the barrel? You gonna bring Jerry Rice out of retirement?
I mean, Mike Evans is top, right?
Go,
I mean,
baby.
that's the best available.
Yeah.
Ridley though, yeah, I love Ridley. I think, like, to me, he's in that same ballpark with Hollywood Brown, but I think he's just a notch ahead of him because I feel like he's more proven than Hollywood Brown at this point.
Yeah.
And I feel like it would be less of a risk.
Hollywood. Well, look, I think Hollywood does a lot. I think he could be a good one too. So I wouldn't rule him out yet. KC fan says, let's see what we could get at tackle. I honestly have no clue right now. Great segue, KC fan. Let's go on to the tackle position over here, Steve, and take a look at free agency because there's not much.
There's not much.
I poured
Slim
through
pickings.
it, and there's not much. There's 3 guys. Number 1 on the list, I put Donovan Smith back on a 1-year deal. He could probably come in, I would say somewhere around the 5 to 7 million mark for the season is somewhere that you should be able to get Donovan Smith. If you can't get him for that, then you have to move on. Number 2 was Tyron Smith out of Dallas. Now, the knock on him is he is a brick wall. He's a brick wall. I think he allowed 3 QB pressures or something last year. He's good. But, Steve, he's like 33 years old. He's
Terrible availability.
Injured.
Yeah, that's the problem with him.
But they are saying somewhere around 7 to 9 million. So for a 1-year deal and to leave Dallas, which I don't know if he really wants to, you may be looking somewhere around the double-digit mark. You may be getting closer to that 10 million mark when it's all said and done. And then third on the list is Cornelius Lucas. And by the way, if Cornelius Lucas is third on your list, you're in trouble. So again, going to the free agent market,
Cornelius Lucas Nyang.
Look, Donovan Smith, by the way, he's got like more penalties. Dude, I don't even remember what he exactly did. I wrote down what he exactly did. Here it is. 506 pass blocks is what he was in there for. He allowed 2 sacks, 7 hits, and 42 pressures. He allowed 42 pressures on 500 pass block attempts. People were going after OBJ on, I think he played like almost 1,000 more pass blocking or 500 more pass blocking snaps than Donovan Smith and only allowed like maybe 30 more pressures. You know, it's insane. Yeah. And then he had 9 penalties, which I'm pretty sure besides Jawan Taylor led the entire
Well, I mean, let's
NFL.
be honest here. If you strip away all preconceived notions, who's the better left tackle?
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say. Cornelius Lucas, I made a little snarky joke about Cornelius, Cornelius, get up here in front of the class and tell me why you deserve to be a Chief.
Cornelius.
Well, he's 33, but he does sit around the $3 million mark. And by the way, he didn't get to start a lot of games last year, but he started a few. He had 150 pass block attempts. He let up 3 sacks in that 150. Let me tell you. But only 8 pressures total, but so 3 of the 8 pressures got home, which again might be more of the QB in the system not being as elusive as a Patrick Mahomes. But he did have a 73.6 pass blocking grade from PFF, which, by the way, was 13 points higher than Donovan Smith. So the problem is Donovan Smith is 31, and he's the youngest on the list. So, Steve, I'm a firm believer that if you want to address the tackle position, it's draft or trade. And I don't see trade being a possibility. I think it's draft or you just stay in-house. You may have to re-sign Prince Tega. You may have to try to get something, you know what I mean? Like you may have to do something weird.
Keep developing.
Or
Wanye.
just let Wanye do it, which
I feel like a 1-year deal with Donovan Smith or Tyron Smith, either one would be okay. Because you have Wanye. So it's like.
But which would you prefer? I think I would just prefer to go ahead and stick with Donovan Smith for the price that you would have to pay.
I don't know. The only thing that makes me think I would rather go with Tyron Smith is I feel like he's a better tackle than Donovan Smith.
Oh, yeah,
when healthy,
100%.
like
100%.
not a question. And plus, he's injury prone. We're worried about his availability, but you have Wanye Morris,
right?
So,
I mean, think what you guys think in the chat.
It's not like you're dead in the water if he were to be hurt. So yeah, I don't know. It either way, I'd be good with.
Right. Let's go to the chat for just a second here. Steve's getting a phone call. We'll let him take that. Sherry says, is this the off season where Veach has to cook? 1,000% Sherry. I said it on X that Brett Veach does not make a lot of money as GM. He's not one of the highest paid GMs in the league, which is kind of ludicrous to think about.
He will be.
It feels like Kansas City is we've firmly entered the recognition stage of what we have. They have re-signed Dave Tobe. They have re-signed Joe Cullen. They've given new contract to Spags. They're going to redo Andy Reid's contract. I think it's time to look at Brett Veach and say, hey, we see what you've done. I think Brett Veach will get there. But yes, with the limit, I don't want to say we don't have money, because a lot of Chief fans are just so conditioned to say we don't have money.
Isn't it? That's part of the cycle.
Dude, you're not a Chiefs fan unless you learn the phrase, we can't afford that. Look,
we can't pay that.
The Eagles have never worked on a cap in their life. They have signed anyone and everyone they can find. And look, you just have to know how to manipulate it. You got to know how to throw your money around so it don't hit the cap properly. But look, Brett Veach, he knows what he's doing. But yes, this is the year that he has to, he's got 24, 25 spots to fill. He's got to do it. He's got to do it.
Yeah,
I appreciate your question, though, Sherry.
That's what I was saying all season. Really, was this coming off season was going to be, a very big one for the Chiefs, like going forward. I mean, so much going on. It was like Brett Veach is really going to show what his vision is for the Chiefs going forward this year.
Yes, 100%. Doug says, ACU is out of the question to do a player swap for Sneed. Dude, Steve, I was thinking about this today. There are some trade rumors heating up in Philly for defensive end Hassan Reddick, who basically is an outside linebacker, but he can't put his hand in the dirt and he can go.
Yeah,
would you be up for a straight up Hassan Reddick for L'Jarius Sneed trade?
I don't know. That's something to think about. I do like Hassan Reddick.
Dude, he can get after the QB. And look, if you're going to lose Sneed anyway, you got to get something back. Don't you? And look, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Hassan Reddick is being rumored right now to be on a trade block, and he's drawing some interest. Sneed is being recruited to the Eagles. By the way, he was a teammate of Boston Scott, Steve, who we put on our running back list as a potential signing.
Yeah, there's actually a story out about how if he went to free agency, which we know he's not going to now, but that there was a lot of Eagles players trying to get Sneed to Philadelphia.
Right, and Boston Scott was one of them. But by the way, does that mean Boston Scott is he's content on just signing there? He's not even going to really touch the free agent market? I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. And I do believe if you have to go the trade for pick routes, you're looking at a second round pick plus something else. I do not think you're going to get to the first. I could be wrong, though. There could be a team sitting around, just for an example, let's say the 49ers say, hey, we'll give you our first round pick for Sneed. Would you do it? I mean, I think you would have to do it. Do you want to load up the 49ers? I mean, who cares? They're in the NFC. I mean, I would come more wanting to put them off in the NFC than I would the AFC.
As much as I love L'Jarius Sneed, if that were to happen, he would just be the next Charvarius Ward.
Well, Charvarius Ward's not horrible, though. He's had a pretty good career with San
That's what I'm
Francisco.
saying, but he's also going to be right there watching the Chiefs win a Super Bowl eventually.
Right. Eric says, did y'all touch on our F- rating? No, I was talking to Steve about this earlier. Look, these things have to be a joke. They have to be a joke. Our locker room that they just renovated, that is beautiful, by the way, was given an F. Okay. The nutritionist was given like a freaking D. Dude, when you come to KC, you don't got a nutritionist. You've got two choices. Are you going to go to Jack Stack or are you going to go to freaking Q39? That's what they're putting in there. If you don't think that the barbecue is what's fueled this dynasty, then you're out of your freaking mind. So look, if you want to eat your carrot salad and your kale smoothie, go lose games over in San Francisco with those West Coast weirdos, okay? Do it. But when you come into the barbecue capital of the world, you are fueled on animal fat and barbecue sauce, baby. And just bear with it. That's what you got to do. And look, it's proven a point. Patrick Mahomes' body is pure proof of physical specimen.
Don't you talk about him?
I'm just saying. Look at him.
I think
He's
some
the
of
best
it's
athlete on the planet.
Some of it's like disgruntled ex-employees.
Steve, that's
right?
got to be what it is, right?
Well, speaking of that, like I'm getting a little off the rails here, but you were talking about McCole Hardman earlier, talking a lot of trash to the Jets. Throwing a lot of shade. Apparently, their punter has just came out on X and said, "Be careful getting information from disgruntled former employees. Getting beat out by a rookie free agent after being guaranteed millions of dollars is tough to deal with. Entitlement is a killer of opportunity. You have to earn it every year."
Look, he's not wrong, by the way. McCole Hardman, look, he got beat out by 2 rookies, by the way. 2 undrafted rookies over there. So, yeah, look, McCole Hardman can whine and cry, and look, I like him okay. But look, if all Brett Veach does is re-sign McCole Hardman back, we're in trouble. Okay. Let's go on. Let's go on. I know a lot of people's want to talk about D-line too, because good Lord, the D-line is a little not good. This is
it's getting a little thin.
I don't know how to tell you. Let's start with defensive tackle. And right now, our defensive tackle, we have 2 players under contract, Steve. Neil Farrell, who played in minimal snaps.
Right. Okay. He did play a lot in the playoffs. He did a lot of good things in the Baltimore Ravens game. He is a good guy to have. Like if you don't have Derek Nottie, I think Farrell can play that part, right? Yeah.
Okay. Your other one is a futures contract with Isaiah Buggs. That is all we have under contract, Steve, at the defensive tackle guy, position. Right?
Buggs isn't.
He's not a young lad. But the point is that is our only 2 defensive tackles that we have under a contract.
Oh, he's only 27. I thought he was a little older.
We have no Mike Pinnell. We currently do not have Chris Jones. We do not have Turk Wharton. We do not have Derek Nottie. We have none of the above. So we have to do something here. Here's our most likely free agents to sign with KC. Number 1, Chris Jones. It has to be Chris Jones.
That big old smiling face right there on the right.
If Chris Jones decides he cannot get paid what he wants, and they have to just move on. Look, your next 2 on the list, Justin Matabuke and Christian Wilkins, are both 26 and 28 respectively. So they're younger guys than Chris Jones, and they're both only going to estimate somewhere around the 20 to 21 mark. So those 2 would be where I would go to try to fix the problem. By the way, I still firmly believe we're getting something done with Chris Jones.
Yeah, I think so.
If you have to move on from tier 2, so Chris Jones is firmly tier 1, 2 and 3 is tier 2, but Justin has a chance to get into tier 1. He's only 26 years old, and by the way, only 59 games played in his career. 24 sacks, 25 hits, 69 hurries, 2 forced fumbles, 5 batted balls, and 118 total tackles. That kid was a monster for the Ravens. But I feel like they're going to get that done with him too. I don't think they're going to let him walk. So if you have to go into the bottom tiers now, you're going to Justin Jones. He's 28, but he only wants about 7 to 9 million on the open market. He's not as dominant as Chris Jones. In his 83-game career, he only has 12 sacks, 27 hits, and 85 hurries. But that's what a defensive tackle does. Chris Jones is just an athletic freak. Right. And then after him, you've got DJ Reader from the Bengals. He's going to be somewhere around 15 mil. And honestly, I believe that's a little too much. He missed a lot of 2023 with a torn quad. So, I mean, he's still coming off that. Number 6, Derek Nottie. Look, he's only going to demand 1 to 2 million. You might have to bring him back for some run support. Turk Wharton again, 1 to 2 million. You might have to bring him back just because the finances allow. You've got to have depth pieces. You cannot have $10 million guys across the board. You can't do it. You've got to win with your $1 to $2 million depth pieces. And to be honest, Derek Nottie and Turk Wharton have proved they are champions. Yeah. So I would not be surprised if maybe
MVS also proved he was a champion, though. Think about that.
That's true. But he's a depth piece, but he needs to be paid like a depth piece. When I say 1 to 2 million for these guys, that makes a lot more sense.
No, I know what you mean.
Jonathan Harris at number 8, he's about a 1 to 2 million, and Benito Jones 1 to 2 million. And those two, I would say from 7, 8, and 9 is a far cry from 5, 6, and 7. And then, or actually, I would say 1 is by himself, 2 and 3 is the next tier, 4 and 5 is the next tier, 6 and 7 is the next tier, Jonathan Harris and Benito Jones is the last tier. So I don't know if you want to get down that low, Steve, but what do you think? Is defensive tackle a concern to you right now?
Yes and no. Like, I think they'll definitely have.
If you get Chris Jones on the roster, if you sign Chris Jones and now you have Chris Jones, Neil Farrell, and Isaiah Buggs on a future contract, Are you still content? Because Chris Jones isn't playing 100% of the snaps. He can't.
No, I mean, I think it'll be fine. I'm not like freaking out about it. The only thing that matters is getting Chris Jones done. You're going to find those other
100%.
guys. I mean, worst case scenario, they re-signed Derek Nottie. Who cares? Like,
Right.
like you said, he's already proved he can do the job.
I think
I'm not
draft
freaking out.
might be something there too.
The draft is going to be where they look to probably reinforce that defensive line. Like, I think, which we're going to get to, the edge rushers, we're probably a little more thin. I don't know if you can say more thin, but I feel like that's more of a concern. I don't know. I'm not real worried about it. Like I said, Neil Farrell Jr. is pretty young. I think he's only been in the league like 2 years now, maybe 3. He was doing a lot of good stuff in the playoffs and limited snaps. I mean, we have guys that can play that part, man. I'm not freaking out about it. No.
Lewis says we need to get Jones some help in the middle of the line. Look,
Now,
I agree.
that was something I was going to say, actually. So thanks for the comment, Lewis. But like, what if the Chiefs just like doubled down on defensive tackle? Like, what if they did go pay a DJ Reader or someone like that to put beside Chris Jones?
Seeing this in the comments, DJ Reader's fantastic. He's great against the run. Doug says if we had CJ and DJ Reader, a CJ DJ combo, are we really going to go there?
Or, I mean, like, obviously you can't probably pay Christian Wilkins with Chris Jones, obviously.
No.
But like, what if they were to double down and just like pay somebody like that just to really just beef up the defensive line?
Well, here's my thing. I think Derek Nottie probably walks, but if I'm the Chiefs, I'm throwing a contract for 1 to 2 years to I'm throwing it to our boy Mike Pennell. I think Mike Pennell has earned.
Yeah,
he needs to play week in, week out with the Chiefs, and he's probably got 2-3 years left. Either you go year to year with it, or you just say, "Look, I will give you a 2-year deal, and let's see what happens. Give it an out after the first year, just in case, whatever." But that's it, and I do believe you draft one. I don't think that you can actually look if you're going to pay Chris Jones 28 to 29 mil per year, like you said, so somewhere around the $80-90 million mark. You do not have enough money. Look, you're not going to get Justin or Christian Wilkins. Those two are going to go back to where they came from.
right.
Even a Justin Jones or a Reader, I just don't think you can. Look, you can't afford to pay Reader 15 mil. You know what I mean? And that's just, in my opinion, it's just too much. You will have to find the depth in the draft process, in my opinion. And look, they tried it last year with Keandre Colburn, but he didn't pan as well as they thought he did. We even lost him 2 different times throughout the season, I believe.
Obviously, they didn't care that much.
Right, but I do think that they thought there was something there. They wouldn't have drafted him, obviously.
I agree, but I think like maybe they were like, "Oh, I think we missed here," because they didn't really care about retaining him.
Wasn't Keandre Colburn more of a bigger, thicker guy? So he kind of was more like the run stuffer, Derek Nottie kind of guy?
I don't know. He had a quick first step. I know that was a big thing with him. And then he also, his pass rushing had got pretty good his last year at Texas. So I don't know, man. I think they thought he could do a little bit more than maybe he was capable of. I don't know.
Right. Knox says the money has to go to a wide receiver. Knox, look, that is the sentiment in Chiefs Kingdom, but I'm telling you right now, that may be the wrong sentiment.
That's not, that's not how they're going to think either. Like I said, I think this is the year they pull the trigger on like getting a big piece at wide receiver. But at the same time, we all know how they work. Like if they feel like defensive tackle is a problem or defensive end or whatever it is, they're going to prioritize that over receiver. I do think that.
Right. Well, let's talk about defensive ends because I'm telling you, this might be where you have to spend some money.
Hold on. A lot of people in their feels about MVS, which is weird to me. So I was thinking about it, Mike, and I was like, how am I going to sleep tonight knowing that MVS has been cut? And I think this sums it up. This is how I'm going to sleep tonight. This is how much I'm worried about MVS being cut.
Who cares about MVS getting
Isn't
cut?
that amazing? MVS, okay?
Look,
MVS.
Who cares, though? MVS didn't do nothing. Everybody called him Applebee's all season. Like, why do we have to get sentimental now that we did what we thought they should do?
Just look at that. That's going to be me, baby.
Yeah.
That's going to be me.
This is a business, man, and it's just not going to do it. So, look, what do we have at defensive end right now, guys? What do we have at defensive end? We've got George Karlaftis. I like George Karlaftis.
Baby.
George is awesome. Steve, is George an elite number one, just money edge rusher? Is he that big money number one guy, or is he just kind of that secondary kind of supporting role guy?
I don't like this question. I feel like it's yet to be seen because I think the way that George is progressing in this league and what he's done in his first 2 years, he could be that guy.
He could. But again, so what do you got on the other side of him? Right now, under contract, we've got Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who by all means had a rough defensive end rookie season.
Was it rough, or did he just not get the snaps?
He got snaps early, and they wasn't all that great. But here's what I'll say. He does have to develop.
He's under contract as well. He's just hurt.
Right. Well, he's coming off an ACL injury that probably means he misses a lot of time.
Right.
And besides those three, you've got B.J. Thompson, another rookie that never could get on the field and never could produce. Not saying Anudike-Uzomah and B.J. Thompson's not great, but did I name a single 1,000% great pass rusher that anybody else would be knocking the doors down to get? No. Look, I love George, but I don't think George is at this point in his career, and again, it remains to be seen, but he's not 1,000% like the go-to pass rusher because why? George is a little slower. He can't really close the gap a lot. We're starting to see it.
I'll disagree with you somewhat. I don't think he's like the legit number one guy. Like, I don't think people see him that way. But I do think teams would be knocking down the door to get their hands on George. Maybe
so. But I'm just trying to say, is he in the elite categories?
No, I know what you're saying.
Right now with the top tier edge rushers. No, there's just no way.
As far from like age standpoint and everything, like, I mean, who George's age or younger are you putting ahead of him? Like Aiden Hutchinson?
I'm just trying to say.
I know what you're saying, but just for conversation's sake.
Well, yeah, like, he was drafted in the same draft as Aiden Hutchinson.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, who else George's age or younger?
I'm not even saying that he's not even better than Aiden Hutchinson. I don't even know who I would want over the two. I'm just trying to say that even if George Karlaftis is the freaking greatest pass rusher of all time, we still have nobody on the other end. We certainly do not have depth.
Right.
Okay, we have zero depth. Because why? Malik Herring is now gone. Mike Dana is probably gone. Mike Dana is estimated market value is around 15 to 16 million.
That's wild.
That is super crazy when you hear all the people on the deals.
He was a very underrated guy, and he was like clutch. Like, I feel like Mike Dana made some plays for the Chiefs, and like, but 15 million seems steep, man.
15 million feels very steep. So this is what I'm trying to say. George Karlaftis is a good pass rusher. He's a good pass rusher. Felix may develop into one, but we don't know. The jury's still out. I think you're crazy if you think that Felix, after what you've seen, is just like hands down going to be amazing. Right? Do you say that? No.
Who?
You can't say that. Felix.
No, I do think Felix has all the tools, though, so I'm very interested to see how he progresses from rookie season to sophomore season.
Are you comfortable enough to say, Felix, that's your starting job and we have nobody behind you?
No, we definitely need some depth.
Exactly.
Like, but, if it was just like a depth piece and they were going to say, you know what, we're going to start Felix, but we have a guy that can come in behind him that's decent or whatever. Would you be okay with that? Or do you want you want Beast? You want Bosa? You want what? Like, what do you want?
You win in the NFL. Edge rusher is one of the key pieces. It has to be. And nowadays you got to have multiple edge rushers.
But doesn't Chris Jones kind of take away from that for the Chiefs? Like, since he's such an athletic freak and he does things that no other defensive tackle does, doesn't it kind of alleviate some of the pressure from having to have top tier guy?
A little bit, but at the same time, that's the same argument where Patrick Mahomes don't need anybody to do receiver. He can do it himself, and then you see what happens.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's the same.
So here's my thing, though. I believe defensive end and defensive tackle is a problem right now. I believe our defensive line depth is a problem. Like, again, you got to sign all these guys, but it's a problem. Would I prefer to spend some money at defensive end? Yes, I would. Why? Because premier pass rushers are the gold standard. What position always goes besides quarterback in the draft? defensive end. Edge rushers right at the top. You can never have too many edge rushers. You never can. And so I believe that you have to take a serious look at some of these guys on the list. So here's my new list for defensive ends. Brian Burns is a free agent. Now, they may go ahead and tag Brian Burns. Brian Burns is 26 years old. He's going to be right around the 21 to 23 million mark. But that's going to be probably a little bit out of our range. I don't think you can play ball with Brian Burns, but he is the guy on the list that I would love to see. Would you be opposed if they said Brian Burns signs 4 years, 80 million with the Chiefs? And you paired him with Chris Jones?
Oof, that's a big chunk. And you know, like I was thinking about that. And
but are you comfortable with Chris Jones, Brian Burns, and George Karlaftis being okay? That's all I'm trying to say. Don't you feel like you have to get I could say, end?
Well, we could go get Mike Evans and we could get Calvin Ridley both. Would you feel comfortable with the wide receiver room then? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of the same sentiment.
That's not the same sentiment. Look, we're under the impression that Chris Jones is coming back, but you still got to have a defensive end. I'm just trying to say, you got to have a defensive end. Brian Burns, he might be out of our ballpark, but okay. Chase Young, number 2 on the list. Chase Young is actually only garnering 13 to 15 million. That's less than Mike Dana estimated value. What world are we living in right now where Spot Rack says Chase Young is estimated less than Mike Dana?
Yeah, I mean, you're taking Chase Young all day, every day. And weird. I love Mike Dana.
Right. So, look, Chase Young's 25. He's played in 43 games. And, look, by all means, it feels like he's been kind of a bust. But let's think about this. 43 games played. He has 18 sacks, 20 hits, 99 hurries, 7 batted balls, 137 total tackles, and 6 forced fumbles. Compare that to Mike Dana, who is number 9 on the list, who is actually garnering, they say, somewhere almost $2 million more than Chase Young. He is 1 year older. He's 26. He's played in 59 games. So we have 16 less games for Chase Young. Mike Dana has 19 sacks to Chase Young's 18 sacks. So, I mean, close, but he's played almost a full season more. They both have the same hits, 20 hits. He has 25 less hurries. He only has 74 hurries. He has 3 less batted balls with 4. He has 20-something less total tackles and less forced fumbles. I don't think there's
much of a difference, to be honest. Like, if you're really talking about the two of them, like, it's kind of like a pick your poison thing. Well, Chase Young, the ceiling of Chase Young is like
the ceiling's way higher. The twitchiness is higher. The explosiveness is higher.
But I'm saying stat wise, like you're talking about stats, there's not a difference. And like,
except for the fact that the stats across the board, though, Mike Dana's played a full entire extra season.
Right.
So, number 3 on the board was AJ Epinesa. He's 26. He's only garnering somewhere between 5 and 6 million. And I thought that was super low for AJ Epinesa. Like, his stats aren't amazing, by the way. 57 games played. He's got 18 sacks, 18 hits, 57 hurries. But he does have 12 batted balls, 3 forced fumbles, 2 picks, and 93 tackles. I think AJ Epinesa at $5 to $6 million is a perfect depth piece. Is he not a perfect depth piece to put behind a George Karlaftis?
I mean, honestly, with your list, I think any of these guys would be fine. Like, because I'm not sold on you have to have some massive edge rusher like you are. Like, I think that we do need to reinforce.
Well, we were fine with Charles Omenihu, but with Charles Omenihu on an ACL injury that may miss no telling how much time and may not come back from the injury perfectly. Well, who do we have?
I get it, but I feel like to me, it's like.
Do you go back to the draft again?
What?
Do you go back to the draft again? Do you take an edge rusher at 32? Would you take a Darius Robinson from Missouri right there again and have the same more potential, but it may take 2 to 3 years to develop?
I would rather look in the draft, to be quite honest. I feel like our money needs to be spent elsewhere. I feel like for some reason Chiefs fans,
but that's wide receiver, right?
I feel like maybe
you're not going to spend on no more positions, just wide receiver.
I didn't say just wide receiver. I don't feel like a big amount of money needs to go there. I feel like the Chiefs Kingdom has this weird thing where every offseason everybody gets super horned up about edge rushers.
Because edge rushers are a thing that is needed.
I get it, but you know what? George Karlaftis, double-digit sack guy. We got him in the draft. Like, We have Chris Jones. Other teams don't have a defensive tackle that can do the things Chris Jones does. Like, I'm not saying that we don't need to address it. I'm not saying that we don't need to address defensive line as a whole, but I just don't think we need to go spend on a Brian Burns. Like, that seems unnecessary.
You may not have to get a Brian Burns. But besides wide receiver, if you don't think defensive end, defensive tackle is the main problems of this entire team, I think you're out of your mind. What's more pressing, to have an RB4 or to have another defensive end, a starting defensive end?
I think that just goes to show you how this team's built, right? I think the most pressing issue we have by far is left tackle, but there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
Right.
Like, there's not a lot of good free agency choices out there. You're going to have to hit in the draft on one of those, which maybe that's what they look to do. Maybe that's what they go with in first round.
So, okay. So look, let's say let's say they go first round left tackle because you have to. Now that pushes you down to second, third, fourth round. If you didn't pay your money to a wide receiver and you didn't get your big wide receiver in free agency, you're taking a wide receiver in the second round. That's Brett Veach's MO. So now you're comfortable with a third round defensive end pass rusher?
Well, my thing is, if you don't have a Brian Burns, if you don't go get somebody to that level, then you're better off just developing your own draft talent. Like, I think like AJ Epinesa, like, I'm with you. I think he'd be a good piece, but for what we have to pay AJ Epinesa, I feel like we can get the same out of a draft.
$5 to $6 million a year for AJ Epinesa? Well, yeah, if you get a first round pick, I'm curious to see what did Felix sign for last year?
I don't remember. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think we think the same thing. It's just a different degree of it. And I feel like you mentioned wide receiver. Yeah, I do think wide receiver, having a good wide receiver is more pressing to me than defensive end right now. Because, I mean, obviously they're going to get the defensive end pieces. They might not be flashy, but like, wide receiver is just, you can't pull a Brett Veach and just overlook it again.
Felix average annual salary is 2.9, so right at $3 million. So AJ Epinesa is about $2 million more than a first round pick at 32. That's not crazy.
How old is Epinesa?
He's a young guy. He's only 26. He'll be 26 when the season starts.
So, I mean, maybe that's where
Didn't he also come from Iowa? So he's
maybe
a local.
Maybe we're answering our own question here. Maybe that's around the range that you have to look at if you're signing.
Well, maybe. So we'll go down the list just a few more. We got just a few more. We have Marcus Davenport. He was rumored to be here last year. He's more around the 8 to 10 million. And I don't think he had a great year last year. Danico
I wasn't a huge fan of Davenport last year when people were talking about it.
Well, the thing about Marcus Davenport is he moves up and down the line. So he does all the things Spags likes. He's kind of like a Charles Omenihu in a way.
Right.
Danico Autry at 5. You'll know him from the Titans. But look, he's the old guy on the list. He'll be 34. But look, we've not been opposed to signing older one-year deal pass rushers.
That happens a lot. I mean, that was our MO up until this year, right?
Right. He's only wanting somewhere between 5 and 7 per. So maybe you get him on a $5 million deal and he comes here because he wants to win a ring. Who knows? But this dude in his career, 140 games, 65 sacks, 49 hits, 248 hurries, 27 batted balls, 362 total tackles, and 7 forced fumbles. Danico Autry is a monster, and he had a great year last year. So if you think he's slowing down at 33, 34, last year was a great year from Danico Autry. Number 6, DJ Wanham from the Vikings. Not a lot of people even know this cat, but 11 to 13 million. So he's a little high. He's a high range for his name and his production, but not too bad. 62 games played, 25 sacks, 89 hurries. Not too bad. Number 7, Emmanuel Ogbah. He's been here before. He went and signed a big contract with the Dolphins. I want to say
he's solid.
Right. I want to say somebody from another publication in Kansas City, and I don't remember which one it was. Might have been the one Justin.
It doesn't
might
matter.
have been. I don't know. Okay, I don't know, but he suggested this, and honestly, for 8 to 10 million a year, I think that's a little pricey. He's wanting him at 8 to 10 a year, and we're talking about AJ Epinesa at 5 to 6 can be too much.
Why is Mike Gann at 15? I just don't understand. I can't wrap my head around that one.
Right. Jonathan Greenard at 8. He played with the Texans, but look, I'm going to tell you the one thing that knocks him out of the deal. He's 13 to 14 million, and he's 27. So, I mean, he's getting a little up there, but not horribly. If you sign him to a 3-year, $36 million deal, like, is that crazy? In my opinion, no. It wouldn't be crazy. He's played 48 games. That's it. Just 48 games in his career. 25 sacks, 21 hits, 46 hurries. So he can get after the QB. But his agent is Drew Rosenhaus. So good Lord.
Yeah, good
That's
luck
not
playing ball with
happening.
that. But,
That's why he's down the list.
As we
and then,
talk,
of course, we know Dana and Herring.
Right. Well, as we talk about this kind of thing, we also know that more than likely Brett Veach is going to sign something completely out of left field. So, like a deal like that would not surprise me. We always get that signing where it's just like, well, we didn't really see that one coming, but hey, it's like if
that's
you've seen
what I tried to
the
go
meme.
With.
You've seen that meme of the woman that's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
No. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Maybe I do like that. Like that. That's kind of how the signing is going to be. I don't think we addressed this real quick, so I just want to hit it. HG Chiefs fan says, member for 5 months now, have the Chiefs reached the status that some free agent players looking for a ring will make a friendly 1-year deal to have that shot? That's been the sentiment for the last few years, and I don't feel like it works. Like, I think it's all about that money, baby. Yeah. I don't think they care about the rings anymore. Most of these kids just want the money. It doesn't matter. Even the older guys at the tail end of their careers, you might catch a guy like what's his name, Carlos Dunlap or someone like that. But it's not often that you get to see that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I just don't think that's the common. I think that's what the media, that's what they'll say to the media. It makes you look good. I just want to go get a ring, man. I want to win. I want to help my team. But they're all thinking the same way Justin Jefferson. I just want to break the bank. I want to be the best at my position.
Right.
So, I mean,
that's the thing. We have so much to do in this offseason. Like, Brett Veach has got his work cut out for him. His staff has probably been at work on this for over a year now.
Right.
Like this exact offseason, because there's so much that's getting ready to happen. And the thing about it is, Mike, is like, even if you do free up a lot of money, you still can't go out and just go crazy. You don't want to be in cap hell come a year or two. Like, that's how Brett Veach has managed to operate so far, is not putting himself in those positions. Even though the last 2 years, 1 year, we literally had like $300 in cap space.
Yeah.
But, he always finds a way to pull his wizardry and get out of it. But I feel like he operates at a different level than, say, a John Dorsey. Like, John Dorsey would just start signing everybody and worry about it later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but Brett Veach is not really like that. So I do expect to see some pretty significant signings in free agency. But I feel like it's going to be a lot like last year, where you have like maybe one big money one, which was Jawan Taylor last year. I think you're looking at something like that, maybe not to that magnitude, but you're going to see like one big signing. You're going to see a lot of them really good signings that you didn't think about until they happened, like Drew Tranquil or Mike Edwards. Like, those were very, very key, huge signings in the offseason last year, but they weren't flashy. Like, we weren't talking about those guys when free agency started. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Look, we've talked a lot about certain positions in free agency, this and that, but a lot of people are pumped up about the draft, Steve. We talked about the draft. And again, we're under the assumption that free agency is, in our opinion, free agency is harder to call than even the draft, in my opinion. You just never know where he's going to go.
Right.
I'll answer Doug's question really quick. If we trade Sneed for a second-round pick, we trade back and have 3 picks in the second round. Thoughts? That's a good idea.
Trading back's a big possibility.
Honestly, think trading back out of the first makes a lot of sense.
Like, the more I've been looking into this draft, I do think that's a huge possibility. Because
trading
it's
back
like,
out of the first,
yeah, because
I do too.
Just by different scenarios and different mock drafts and things like that, which I haven't dove in really far, but it seems like around the time of that 32nd pick, the guys that are top of the tier available are positions we don't need.
Do you believe they would have traded out last year if it wouldn't have been in KC and they wanted the hometown kid for the story?
Yeah, maybe. But no, like at the end of this draft, I've noticed right at the end of the first round, there's still going to be some QBs available. And they're not bad QBs. Like, no. You're looking at.
I actually just come up with my QB list yesterday, Steve, and
right.
honestly, that's about 7 or 8 deep.
You're looking at the Malik Neighbors could be there. JJ McCarthy.
Malik Neighbors.
Is it not Malik Neighbors? What's
That's the wide receiver.
The wide receiver. What's the quarterback that won the Heisman?
Oh, he'll be a top 5 pick.
You think so?
Yeah,
I think he could drop to the end there. What's his name? Why am I?
Jaden Daniels.
Daniels.
He's a top 5 pick. He's not getting past top 5. But you're right. JJ McCarthy. You've got Michael Penix.
Yeah, Michael Penix.
He's
that's
there.
Another one.
Bo
you got
Nix will be there.
Bo Nix. Like, that's the thing, though. You really like. I don't see him as an automatic top 5.
I don't think there's any doubt. When I went back, I've recently watched his film yesterday, and the only knock on him is he's too little. He's a little small.
And that's been killing teams lately. Taking Bryce Young, taking Kyler Murray. That's what I'm saying.
But look, he plays on time in the pocket. He can do RPO. He does everything.
I guess we're seeing it a little bit differently. Like, to me, I feel like he's the guy that could fall to the end of the first round out of the top tier quarterbacks.
To me, the one that I think, and I actually was talking yesterday with somebody that watches the draft too, and they made a comparison, and it made me really think about this. And they said Drake May from North Carolina, who's now projected the 3rd quarterback.
Right.
Drake May very much resembles the kid from Kentucky last year, Will Levis.
That's another one I was going to say.
And Will Levis fell out of the first. So they think that Drake may be the Will Levis of this draft. Like, he may be the one that falls down the list. And,
right.
and I never thought of that, but Drake May was considered very good last year, and he was pretty good this year, but he wasn't as good last year, and he had 3 struggle games. He struggled against Miami.
He could be that guy too, Mike. Like,
right.
I was saying Jaden Daniels because of size, and I just think that's proved to be a big problem lately. But at the same time, he fits that mold of quarterbacks there everybody's after, right? So, I mean, he could very well easily be the top 5 pick, or I don't know. I feel like he could drop too, like further than people think.
I don't know. I can't see it. Jaden Daniels has too much to offer. I
think honestly though, I think he's a better prospect than
right.
Williams.
Jaden Daniels is top. I think Jaden. Actually, I would not be surprised if 3 quarterbacks come off the board in the first 5 picks.
Don't they all? Doesn't
maybe
always
the
happen?
first 3 picks?
You have to think like a couple 3 years ago or whatever. Like, you had them taking quarterbacks at a ridiculous rate, and then half of them don't even pan out. It's just like madness. Like a Trey Lance and.
But I'm with you. At the end, people want to come up and get that 5th year option on a quarterback. So you do have the option of maybe a Michael Penix, a Bo Nix. You've got JJ McCarthy. You've got a ton of quarterbacks sitting right there that could be in the ballpark. So that's a good option. And in my opinion, Doug, if you trade out of that and come back, honestly, the money is better as well. Like I said, Felix was $11.9 million or something like that. I want to say in the first few picks of the second round, the money comes down almost $2 to $3 million. So it's a lot different. Steve, but the combine is coming up this week. A lot of people are saying that we'll address certain positions. There's one position that I'm going to be very fascinated to watch. That's the wide receiver position. There's a lot of wide receivers that I think if they can run well, they're going to be monsters. What wide receiver do you think, because you were telling me about him the other day that you were really high on. I think that his one knock is speed. So if he can get into the 4.4s, I think that he may become unavailable for us. Keon Coleman.
Yeah, the guy's a monster. I think
Steve likes Keon Coleman, yeah.
Yeah, like, would I hands down, would he be my first choice? I don't know yet. But like, just, he's the guy that jumps off the tape. Like, I've watched a lot of really good wide receivers so far, and like a lot of solid ones, but like, he is the one that like pops off the page to me as far as like just pure God-given ability. Like the guy's an athlete.
Right.
But he does have his shortcomings.
Right. I noticed that he disappears in a lot of games. He has to make a lot of contested catches because his separation's not that great. I don't think he runs very fast. That's what I said at the combine. If he can get himself into the low 4.5s or the
separation's a problem,
or
That's
the 4.4s, Keon Coleman's got a chance to even be not even available for us. Brian Thomas out of LSU, I want to see how fast he runs because I think he's going to light it up. Xavier Worthy's going to be fast. I'd like to see what A.D. Mitchell runs. Lad McConkey, if he can get in the high 4.3s, he's going to be considered a first.
I do like him.
You're going to have to start looking. But Steve, I think I have stumbled upon my Puka Nakua of last year.
Already? Are you calling your shot?
I'm not calling my shot. This is early in the game, and not a lot of people's talking about this kid. But when I watched film of him, and people do know him, he's not as far out. He's not like as far off the radar as a guy like Puka Nakua, by the way. But Ricky Purcell from Florida. Ricky Purcell from Florida is a guy that I watched yesterday, and his hands are exceptional. His route running is the smoothest route running I've watched to this point. There's something about him that I feel like he is, I can't really put a comp on him right now, but I feel like he's a smoother, who's the kid that come out of Cincinnati last year that the Colts took in the second round that we all thought was going to be pretty good? He stretches the field for him.
You're talking about not last year, but the year before.
Alec Pierce?
Alec
Pierce or something.
Yeah.
He is a more smooth Alec Pierce. He's not as tall and big as Alec Pierce, but he's not a bad size either. But I will say I really like him. And I want to watch more and dig in more, and I hope he's there tomorrow. I want to see him run. But, yeah, that's a guy right now that I've got a short list on as one of my breakouts. But there's a running back there I really want to watch too. His name's Dylan Loeb. And not a lot of people know about this kid either. He plays at New Hampshire, okay? And you're going to say, New Hampshire flat out stinks. They don't play anybody worth a crap. Why do you want to watch a kid from New Hampshire? He's 5'10", 207, so he's right in the wheelhouse of what Andy Reid and them look as a physical, not a physical, but as a specimen at running back. And he catches the ball out of the backfield, by the way. He had 68 receptions for 700 yards and 7 touchdowns this year. But the one thing that impressed me the most is when I was looking through these running backs, this guy had 2 games where he had over 100 yards receiving. And the best team they played all year was Central Michigan, right? Central Michigan was their Super Bowl. This kid had 12 catches, 295 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns in that game, along with 30 yards on the ground and a touchdown on the ground. So Dylan Loeb, if he can run very well, this kid has a chance to be picked in the 6th or 7th round. And if not, he's a high-value UDFA. That might be a Chief piece right there. That could be a very much a Chief running back. Because I'd mentioned Bucky Irving. He's known. He's from Oregon. But nobody knows about New Hampshire. Does anybody know about New Hampshire? People can't even pick it out on the map.
People from there.
Maybe. But yeah, I'm getting too far into the draft.
You are. But you were talking about your sleeper receiver. I have one right now that I'm kind of eyeballing.
Sleeper receiver.
Yeah, like a late guy. His name's Joshua Cephas from UTSA.
Cephas.
So he's kind of like the opposite of what we've been dealing with. He's kind of like that tall frame and stuff, kind of like MVS, but not as, maybe just a little bit bigger. But he literally catches everything. Right. Like he's the opposite. The only problem with him is speed. Like he's not like going to be your 4.3, 4.4 blazing speed guy. But if he were to run like a 4.4, like he could probably move up quite a bit because all the tape I watched on the guy, like he can catch anything. I mean, he'll contort his body any which way, like OBJ style, whatever. Like he's going to catch the ball.
He got invited to the Shrine Bowl. He done pretty well at the Shrine Bowl, but did he get an invite to the Combine this weekend? I would think he probably did.
I thought he did.
I just haven't seen anything on it. But yeah, you're right. He's 6'2", 185. He's kind of gangly, but he doesn't, at 185, he looks stockier than.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, it might just be the pads, but he looks bigger than that. I just actually went through and ranked some of my wide receivers last night for the first time, and that's why I'd stumbled up on I'd stumbled upon Ricky Pearsall. But a lot of people still got Marvin Harrison as the number one wide receiver. Are you on that board, or are you picking the kid from LSU, Malik Neighbors?
Yeah. I have to go Marvin Harrison just because.
I'm going to say I think there's three that are literally nose, neck, and neck. And if you picked one over the other, I think it's a 1A, 1B, 1C. And my third is Roma Dunze. I believe Roma Dunze is the man.
Yeah, he's pretty good. But, you know, like,
his contested catch rate, by the way, was like 69%. And the closest one to him was like 30.
Well, you know what's funny is, like, when we start talking about these draft wide receivers, like, one of the biggest knocks on the guys is always separation. They can't get separation. I've heard that about Roma Dunze. I've heard that about Keon Coleman. Even the guy that I was just talking about, like the sleeper guy, the Joshua Cephas, can't get separation. You know who else couldn't get separation, Mike? You know who else couldn't separate from anything? Puka. Guys like that. It's always these guys that are really good. Like, they've said the same thing about them when they were coming out. So it's like, yeah, you do have to take it into account, but you have to watch it with your own eyes. Like you have to watch the tape and actually see it, because just the don't create separation, I feel like that's a go-to.
Right. Duncan says Ryan over at RGR loves Xavier Worthy. Look, Xavier Worthy does a lot of good things. I feel like he's right in the wheelhouse of the McCole Hardman pick. He's right in the wheelhouse of the Tyreek Hill wannabes kind of guys.
He'll be there at the end of the first round, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've got a
probably round 2 pick, maybe.
Look, I've got a round 2 grade on him. I don't think he's nowhere near the ballpark of Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze. He's just not.
No.
If you look in the mid-first round, you're looking at A.D. Mitchell from Texas. He's pretty good. You're looking at Keon Coleman from Florida State. You're looking at Brian Thomas Jr., who can flat out fly from LSU. You're also probably looking to Roman Wilson. He had a pretty good showing in the All-Star game. Roman Wilson, he's pretty quick. He can catch the ball in traffic. Out of Michigan.
Is he not like a Bill Belichick Patriots receiver?
Kinda. I could see Roman Wilson doing some stuff with the Chiefs, to be honest. If you know how to scheme him open, he's fine. But then you've also got Troy Franklin coming in at the first round. You've got Ladd McConkey coming in. You've got Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. You've got a ton of these wide receivers. So it's like, where does Xavier Worthy fall? Does he even fall in the top 10? I don't know. To me, Xavier Worthy can track the deep ball pretty well. He's a good center fielder, and he's got a lot of speed. Now, he's got some problems dropping the ball. But I'll say this. I went back and watched some film of him the year before, because I always like to go back to earlier years and see how they progressed just a little bit, and he's one of the only ones I've actually got to do this with. He dropped the ball a lot back in 2022, but he had a hand injury, and they never told nobody. Come to find out, Steve Sarkisian, their coach, actually said that in 2022 he was playing through a broken hand. So that's why he was dropping the ball a lot. So if true, and I have no reason to believe it's not true, Xavier Worthy is a big time, and that to me makes him a big time team player. Like, if he'll go out and play with a broken hand and drop balls and take that kind of ridicule, that's the kind of kid you do it on your team. So I like Xavier Worthy. I think you would have to take him at 32. I don't think he falls to late, but the Chiefs have been known to trade up in the second round, right, Steve? They traded up for McCole Hardman.
Right.
So maybe he's that trade up round 2 guy. And I mean, he's the complete opposite of Rashee Rice. Do you want to draft an A.D. Mitchell that kind of looks like a Rashee Rice? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you want the same receiver over and over? I don't know. I don't know what we're going to go with.
Do you think that, I don't know. Let me just see. So do you think the Chiefs will get a top 10 receiver in this draft? Because I think, like, obviously top of that's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr.
You have to take him in the first round. I mean, they'd have to take one at 32 to get a top 10.
Who's around 10? Probably Leggett.
Xavier Leggett right now, I've got fallen. I think he's a round 2 guy. I don't think Xavier Leggett.
That's what I'm saying. You think he's probably the 10th best receiver in the draft, probably somewhere around that?
Ladd McConkey, yeah, one of those guys. It's got to be. But look, Ladd's probably going to primarily work out of the slot.
Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Brian Thomas Jr., that's 4. Troy Franklin from Oregon, Ladd McConkey.
Yeah. I mean, you got A.D. Mitchell.
Keon Coleman, Devontae Walker,
Yeah, I think Tez Walker's now fell out of the first. Pretty sure.
Mitchell. You said Mitchell, right?
But you've got Jermaine
So yeah,
Burton,
I mean,
and you've got Roman Wilson.
So where do you think we fall in that? Do you think you get any of those guys, or do you think they take some guy that we're not talking about in late second, third round?
If you pick at 32, you've got a chance to get your hands on Troy Franklin, but I'm not 100% sold on Troy Franklin. You've got a chance to get your hands on Ladd McConkey, but he's primarily going to run out of the slot. Is he fast? Yes. Can he do what Sky Moore should be able to do? Let's hope so. You may be able to get an A.D. Mitchell or a Keon Coleman if they don't run well. You might get your hands on a Roman Wilson. You may be able to snag a Jermaine Burton. And then after that, you're looking at, I mean, like I said, you're looking at kind of the middle tier guys that might be in range to get your Ricky Pearsall, like I like. Maybe if you sit at the end of the second round, you could grab a guy
well,
like
let's say the Chiefs do get one of those top 10 receivers. Which one do you feel like they have their eye on as far as fit?
Geez, that's a great question. I mean, come on. If you could get a chance to get a Marvin Harrison, a Malik Neighbors, or a Rome Odunze, you're taking them regardless of
take
fit,
them
right?
3 off the list because they're going to be gone 100%. But there's some other guys that are questionable, like Ladd McConkey. He could very well be there at the end of the first round.
Right. And look, so what do you have?
His name is Ladd McConkey.
You just got rid of your MVS, right? So presumably you got to fill that X row, that big guy that can run. So to me, the most ideal person to do that, you got Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU in the first round. Does he fall that far? No. A.D. Mitchell from Texas could possibly do that.
Well, I mean, what's his name that you just mentioned that you're not sold on him?
Troy
from
Franklin.
Oregon. Is he not that guy? Like he's a guy that's going to be stretching the field vertically. He's the speed dude.
Yeah. He can do it, but I'm not sold on him for the same reasons as I kind of didn't love MVS in a way.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. He is an X. His hands is not the greatest, and he's not a good blocker. So again, not a good blocker. Well, MVS was a good blocker. That's why he stayed on the field.
I mean, right now, early for me, I'm on Keon Coleman, and I know a lot of people don't like that because they want to say the separation thing.
Right.
But I think Coleman shows you like. He's like what 6'4",
dude. Keon Coleman,
and like
to what you're saying, if he can show out this weekend with his speed, that kid's gonna be he'll be gone before we get there.
He's got more speed than people think. They want to be like, oh, he can't separate. He's not. He's got a lot of speed. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he ran a 4.4, and I guarantee you that guy has the tools to be a starting X receiver. Like. There's no doubt in my mind with that.
1,000%, man.
Yeah.
He's huge. He's 6'4", 215. That kid can straight up do it. And the good thing about him is his hands. He's got better hands than Troy Franklin. In my opinion, he's got better hands than Troy Franklin. I think as far as
like contested catches or like at the catch point, like he's definitely top. Like
right.
Yeah.
He even blocks just slightly better than Troy Franklin, in my opinion. The one that people's kind of overlooking, and I do think there's something to him, though, is A.D. Mitchell. I think there's something with A.D. Mitchell there that people's just they're kind of overlooking with him. I don't really know why, but I do think that A.D. Mitchell's got some of the traits that everybody's looking for. Now, I will say I'm not for sure what he's going to run either. I really don't. I'm kind of curious. Let me click something and see if he's ran a 40
while you're checking
that.
While you're checking that, I'll throw another question at you.
Okay.
And I think I know the answer to this before I ask it, but what's more likely that they get one of these top 10 guys or they wait till third round, fourth round, take a Malachi Corley or something?
Well, we have not even talked about Malachi Corley, but I honestly believe he is firmly in the second round now. So could they just wait to their pick in the second round and trade up a little bit and grab a Malachi Corley? Yeah, I can totally see them waiting to the second round again before they drop a first round pick on him. But look, if they trade out of the first round and fall back to the first few picks of the second round, that's a perfect spot to land a big wide receiver. You might get a Troy Franklin dropping back into the second round. You know what I'm saying? You may get A.D. Mitchell dropping back into the second round. You could definitely get your hands on Tez Tez Walker, you could definitely get your hands on Malachi Corley. Malachi Corley, by the way, I watched some more film on him yesterday because me and you had looked through it.
Mm-hmm.
That dude is like Pacheco at the wide receiver position. He runs like he hates life and he hates everybody. Like, I'm afraid he's going to beat himself to death.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I do think he's kind of probably going to be in that second round. I think he's solidified that.
Yeah, I think.
So I think if you want him, you might have to trade up from.
Yep,
64.
I think you got to trade up from where we're picking in the second round to get a Malachi Corley.
Potentially.
Right now, I'm anxious to see what he does at the I think the combine. Look, here's what people's got to take into account. So these guys, by the way, some guys have 2-3 years on film. They've got film in high school. They transfer. Sometimes they got 5 or 6 years of film. And then they'll go to the East-West Bowl. They'll go to the Reese's Senior Bowl. They'll go to the Shrine Bowl. And then people take those a little too seriously. Like, I've seen people say, oh, man, we thought blah, blah, blah was going to be good. But when he lined up at the Reese's Senior Bowl, man, he got beat on like 3 reps. Right. So you got 6 years of tape, and you're going to determine that off 3 reps at the Senior Bowl. I think you've got to put everything into context. The film has to back up what you see with your eyes. So in my opinion, you can't really hurt yourself at these things unless you're just like I said, unless you need to be a 4-4 receiver and you run a 4-7.
Well, there's a lot of guys that just, I think you can hurt yourself by opting out of doing things. Like there's a lot of guys this year that just are not going to participate because but to me, like, by all means, like that always makes me think, like, everybody wants to use the excuse that, well, they just don't want to risk injury or whatever. To me, they're trying, like, you're trying to hide something.
Right.
That's what it looks like to me. Like, if you don't want to participate in this stuff, what are you trying to hide? Like, what are you hoping they don't see?
Right. Well, I mean, you're going to have your big guys, like, sometimes that they won't go to the combine, right? Like, some of your top players, like, I don't know if Caleb Williams is going to do everything. I bet Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't even know if he's going, is he? Like, they may just say screw it.
That's what I'm saying. So, like,
but
that's
they got their pro day. They'll go to their pro day, and they've got.
I don't even think he's going to do a pro day. He's done said he's not doing that either.
He may not have to.
And here's what I think. Like, do you think it's like he's already consensus number one, possibly number one overall pick, but number one wide receiver pick?
Yeah.
So he don't want to do anything that could possibly hurt him. So, but to me, like, I know a lot of the scouts might not think the way I do, but I think him not participating hurts him.
You think that what he's put on film to this point, as good as it is, that's got him to this point, you think he's afraid to do certain things because he don't want to run a slow 40 or he don't want to. I get it. But also coming from them is like, well, say he has a bad day and he does run a little slow 40.
No, I get it. And that's part of it. But I do think that's what it is. I feel like especially somebody with that high of draft stock, it's just like, well, I can't make my stock any better. They're already saying I could possibly be the number one overall pick. So why would you risk it? But to me, it's just like a bad look. But I mean, obviously that's not what people think because it's getting more common.
Right. I was looking for tackles here for this year, right? So in my opinion, tackle is pretty deep in this draft, and the Chiefs, we proved this a little while ago that tackles are something we definitely got to look at. So obviously Joe Alt out of Notre Dame is going to be unreachable. He's a top 10 pick. You got Olu Fashanu from Penn State. He's going to be up there. And then
I have a feeling I'm going to have to intervene on you. We started talking about the draft. So after left tackle, we'll talk about the draft later.
But there's another guy that I want to watch here. And he comes out of the same pedigree as the kid last year that we thought they were going to move up to take from Oklahoma.
Antoine Harrison.
He plays with him. His name is Tyler Guyton. And he, at first, nobody thought he was going to be good, but he has shown himself over the past few weeks in all these All-Star games to be good. Like, he is very solid. So Tyler Guyton is a guy that I could definitely see if something don't go right at his pro day or whatever, he could fall to the late first. Right now, I've got him somewhere around pick 20-ish. But if just one or two little things happen, that could be a guy we could snag at 32. And Tyler Guyton could be a left tackle. He could stand in and be a left tackle. And him and Wanye played at Oklahoma too. So we like, a
lot of Oklahoma guys there.
Yeah, Creed played there. We like Oklahoma linemen. So I wouldn't be surprised for a Tyler Guyton at 32 if you want to look at the left tackle position. But
Right.
yeah, I'll quit with this.
Yeah, get off the draft for now because we have a
I
lot
love
of drafts to go.
but it's
Yeah.
it'll
Like I
get
said, I have
better
to
after this weekend.
I have
too.
to intervene. So we'll be around for a few more minutes today. So let's, if you guys haven't hit the like button yet, hit the like button. Get your questions in. We'll try to get to as many as we can real quick before we're done for the day. But real quick, let's just touch back on what this video was all about. Because I'm sure people came in late and stuff like that. But MVS cut, L'Jarius Sneed tagged. So just to reiterate, does anyone really care that MVS got cut? Like, I guess what I want to bring back up, something we didn't talk about earlier, Mike, is a lot of people's sentiment is, oh, well, they're still probably going to re-sign him. He'll be back. He's not going to get nothing from nobody else, and the Chiefs will re-sign him. Why would they cut him to re-sign him later? Why wouldn't they just talk restructure?
Well, if you cut them, you save. If you restructure, you got to put all that in the contract.
Okay.
So it's not out of the question that they could go to them and be like, hey, you got released, but now let's work on bringing you back at a good price.
Is it also a thing where they want him to test the market and see maybe he's not as valuable as he thinks he is?
That's a very good possibility. Don't you have to do that? Like, don't you have to, like the Mike Dana? They're estimating 15 to 17 mil. Do you have to let them test the market and be like, look, Mike, great that Spot Rack told you that's what you're supposed to get. So
that's a great point, and I think that's two different things. I think Mike Dana is a guy that you have to do that because you want him, but you know the 15 million is a little steep. MVS, on the other hand, that's a guy that I don't necessarily want back. Like, do you think the Chiefs are thinking the same thing we're thinking? They just can't say it publicly, or do you think they actually would try to get him back in the locker room for a cheaper deal?
Look, here's the thing. I think Andy Reid probably likes MVS because from a coaching standpoint, you want a guy that's going to bring positivity and upbeat to a locker room. Yeah, for us, we don't think he is. He's an asshole to the media and everybody else. Like, there's no way to cut it. Like, that's what he is. But Andy Reid's been quoted as saying that, though. He's said that either you bring energy or you suck energy. That's his quote that he said about that. So he probably likes him from that standpoint because we seen him at camp. He was out there working with Patrick in the end zone. He ran through all the stuff. He doesn't miss a lot of time with injury. At least he hasn't with us. He runs routes. He blocks. He's constantly doing wind sprints to open the field. I think he does what Andy likes, but I think from a Brett Veach standpoint of like, hey, I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not a coach. I think he sees it from us and he's like, why am I paying this cat $12 million, $11 million a year? He's not doing it. So right. I think Andy would want him back at a certain price. And I think Brett Veach is kind of like, can we go in a different direction here maybe? Because this guy's making me look bad.
I'm a firm believer that I think the experiment's over. Like, could he come back like on a different maybe, but I just think it's time to move on from it.
Right. I've seen a lot of people, Ray says, I'd love to see a younger, better hands MV version in the draft. There is that. The first guy I ever scouted, Tez Walker out of North Carolina. Please go watch that kid. His average, I don't think he caught a ball this year that wasn't thrown beyond 18 yards. He stretches the field, and that's what he does. He does have better hands, and he's proved it. He played at, I want to say, Toledo. He's or somewhere like that. But, yeah. So, they're there.
I'm going to interrupt you. News just released like 1 minute ago from Bleacher Report.
Let's go.
L'Jarius Sneed got the franchise tag, but he has been given permission to go seek a trade.
Right, 1,000%.
So, which we knew was coming, but now it's out there. So we talked about the MVS thing a little bit, but we'll get back on Sneed for a second. Do you think that's the most likely scenario here? Is the tag and trade?
Yeah, I think we do not perennially and historically pay corners. We've said this time and time again. We even thought L'Jarius Sneed could have been a trade possibility before the trade deadline this year if he didn't come out and up his game. But by all means, he upped his game across the board. He didn't let up as many catches. He didn't he didn't allow so much a good completion percentage. He didn't miss a lot of tackles like he had in years past. He looked a lot better. So, yeah, totally. I totally believe that it's probably going to go that route. And again, a lot of fans of other teams don't have a respect or a appreciation for what Sneed does, but front offices do. So
Absolutely.
I believe you're looking at least a second-round pick. And I'm telling you, somebody at the end of that first round may say, would you take this first-round pick? Yeah, but, I mean, you're going to have to be 28 and back.
Well,
And
you have to think.
you may have to give up something in return.
Right. You could still get a first-round pick from Sneed. You just might have to give something with it.
Like maybe one of our fifth-round comp picks or something.
Exactly.
Or
So, I mean,
maybe
that
fourth
is definitely
or something.
a first is definitely in the realm of possibility when you look at it from that scope. But I think if you don't trade anything with Sneed, you're looking at second round, like mid to late second round pick, probably.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. General 51 says breaking news: Chiefs give Sneed permission to seek a trade. General's right in on it, baby. He's going down the. We're getting it. He probably said that about 10 minutes ago, and we just can't keep up with the chat as fast. Right. But yeah,
here this one's a common sentiment I'm seeing. Chief KT says Veach is dumb for letting Sneed go. It seems that way, right? Like, oh, you have the best corner tandem in the entire NFL, and you're gonna break it up, right? But like, Mike, we've talked about this for a year and a half now. We were talking about it so long ago, people were getting mad at us because why are you talking about it?
But yeah, they didn't like it.
But L'Jarius Sneed is the perfect example of a guy that you probably don't pay, right, especially in Kansas City. Like, I don't care how good you are at cornerback. I don't care if you're Jalen Ramsey reincarnate. Like,
who, by the way, got paid a bunch of times and he stinks.
Exactly. I think he's one of the most overrated guys there is. And that's the thing about it, man. Like, the Chiefs never put themselves in that position. We've talked about the furthest, probably the last time they did something like that with a corner was Brandon Flowers.
Yeah, maybe.
And they cut him the second year in his contract.
They paid Sean Smith when Andy got here.
Right. So it's like they don't normally work out in your favor to sign a corner to a huge deal, especially when you are known for having a knack of drafting ridiculously good corners and developing them well. You know, right. So it's like we have an embarrassment of riches in the cornerback position right now.
Do you think the Lions at pick number 29 could be interested in him? The Lions are one or two pieces away from winning, right?
There's going to be a lot of teams interested in Sneed.
Would
after
you take
what he done
number
this
29
year.
For Sneed?
Well, yeah.
So if the Chiefs have 29 and 32, you can maybe package those together and get up into the top 15.
I think you have to be off out of your gourd to think that the Chiefs wouldn't jump at a first round pick for Sneed.
What if the Lions were to offer? Because look, they drafted Jeff Okudah a few years ago, didn't really pan out.
Right. I liked him too.
They got CJ Gardner-Johnson on the back end at safety, and he kind of missed some time.
Overrated.
Right. He kind of stinks. But what if they give up 29 and we could take 29 and 32, package that, get up into the top 15, and possibly get us a big left tackle?
Reminiscent of the McDuffie and George Karlaftis scenario where you have like two back-to-back picks there at the end. And how great did that work out for the Chiefs?
Right. You could go 29 and something else and get up. Or, like I said, you could package those two and maybe get in the top 15 if you needed to. What if a guy like I don't think it'll happen, but I'm just throwing out some estimations. What if you get a big run on quarterbacks right off the rip? Then you get a big run on wide receivers and everybody gets a little wide receiver crazy. And you get one of these big offensive tackles to fall down the board. Like, what if Joe Alt's not the first one off the board? Or, what if Alt's not the first one off the board and he was to fall to like 13 or 14?
They're definitely going to be looking
up there.
They're going to be looking at top tier.
That would
tackles.
be amazing.
I mean, that's the thing. Chief KT also says Williams and Watson are not Sneed put together. Sneed in his first year was nothing. I mean, we're talking the same thing.
Yeah, these guys, like Sneed is developed into
Sneed
this.
was developed by this team. The same way Williams and Watson can be developed by this team, especially Joshua Williams.
The same way Mooney was.
He's got a lot of the tools.
The same way all of them are.
Yeah, Charvarius Ford. There's been a lot of guys. Like, we're very good at developing.
We even helped develop. Look, Marcus Peters was good, but I think we helped develop Marcus Peters into the player he was as well.
Right. If Peters had his head on straight, he could have been a force.
Oh, Marcus Pete. Oh, Peter.
Marcus Peters.
Oh,
Julie
Peter.
Gooley is asking about the safety situation. And that's something I've been playing with too in my draft scenarios and things like that. Is safety is something that they could definitely be looking at. I mean, they did take a decently high pick and use it on Brian Cook 2 years ago, which I think for the most part has panned out. It sucks that he got injured at the end of this season. But I still think they'll probably. You think they bring back Mike Edwards again? I know he was on a 1-year deal. Justin Reed. A lot of people's talked about how he's getting.
A lot of
paid
people
too
don't
much.
like Justin.
It's weird. I'm completely
Reed.
fine with Justin Reed and his contract right now. I don't think you rock that boat. But people are talking about it. So what do you think with the safety situation? I think it's a possibility the Chiefs could be looking to the secondary in general earlier in the draft than people think. Because if you do trade Sneed off, you do have good cornerbacks, but you still want to keep that flow going, right?
So I think Chamari Connor can play the safety position. I think he showed that he can.
Yeah.
Brian Cook long term. I don't know if he's the long term solution. I do like what Brian Cook offers, but he's coming back off injury. I think he should be good this year, and I think he's fine. But you got to remember his rookie contract. He's now 2 years in, so they got 2 more cheap years with him. You've got cheap years with Chamari. I don't think they'll bring back Mike Edwards in a way. I think Mike Edwards did enough this year that he will sign a bigger contract somewhere
Possibly.
else.
He's just one of those guys that's always around the ball.
Now, Justin Reed, I honestly think we should extend Justin Reed. I believe if you was to extend him for 3-4 years, now you save money in the short term. And I think that's a thing. And so I think you would have Reed, Brian Cook, let Brian Cook play it out with Chamari Connor for the next 2 years and see if Brian Cook is available to go long term for a good price. And there isn't. And the thing about evaluating safeties, I do this every year. Every year when I watch safeties, it is like watching paint dry, trying to evaluate a safety. Because why?
Unless they're a big hitter.
Yeah, that's true. But even then, it's like, it's just so weird. Like, I've watched one safety this year, and believe me, he's a big hitter. He's a playmaker, but you just don't know how he's going to evaluate. Cam Kitchens from Miami. I loved him on film, but I'm like, is this guy going to translate to the NFL? I have no idea. Is he too much of a corner? Can he not play safety? Is he too slow? There's so much to look at because even Brian Cook fell so far under the radar. Nobody thought the Chiefs were going to take him in round 3.
Right. Well, to your point, I think extending Justin Reed or like something like that might be a smart play. I think he's a very smart player, and I think that what he brings to the team is undervalued by Chiefs fans.
I think that Justin Reed at the safety position is what Nick Bolton is to the defense at the linebacker position. He's a green dot for a safety. Like, he don't get the green dot. Obviously, Spags talks to Bolton.
I know, we know what you're saying.
But yeah,
like he's a leader in that position.
Yes, he's a leader. He gets people in position. He knows what he's doing. He's great off the field. I don't think that I would have no problem extending Reed. Is Reed a top 5 safety in the NFL? Probably not. Is he top 10? Yeah. In my opinion, I think he should be top 10 somewhere.
Look, I think a lot of people ever since we paid a lot of money and got Tyrann Mathieu, people kind of compare every safety after going forward to Tyrann Mathieu. And it's like top tier, like peak Honey Badger. You can't F with that. Like, he was one of the best.
You remember when Honey Badger come out in college? He was like one of the top players on my board. I wanted Honey Badger so bad.
That's the thing though. Like, you can't compare every player to top tier. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and I don't think it's fair to Justin Reed to try to compare him to the Honey Badger because he's not him. He plays different. He's more, I guess the best way to describe Justin Reed is just like solid, reliable, smart. Like, that's what you want. You don't have to worry about Justin Reed, and he makes big plays for you. Very timely ones.
Look, his potential out on his 3-year deal, by the way, was this year. If they cut him this year, he's a $3.5 million dead cap, but they save almost $14 million on the cap.
Could it happen?
Could they cut him? I guess they could. I don't know why you'd want to. Now, I'm curious, if he signs an extension, they say he's worth $7.7 million. So they're saying that the Chiefs right now could just add 3 years for $25 million, somewhere around that mark. Would you add 3 years to him for $25 million and go ahead and that would mean that his contract this year would not be 14 14.25 cap hit. You could work that cap hit down some, right?
Right. That's what I was saying. That's why I think that extending him makes a little bit of sense.
Right. You could go 3 more years at about $25 million and extend him out till he's probably in his, early 30s, late 20s. How old is Justin Reed, by the way? 27.
27.
27.
27.
So look, you can extend him till he was 30, and I think he plays at a high level till then, and I think you save money on the front end this year. I like that idea.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, safety's something that they'll definitely be looking at, Julia. I don't think anything's out of the realm of possibility with what they could be looking at. I mean, they could be looking at almost any position. I think another one that that people don't think about that I think they'll be probably focused on pretty heavily in the draft would be a guard.
Could be.
Inside
because
offensive
they may
lineman.
have to look at Trey Smith.
Right, you
maybe
got
not
Joe
coming back.
Tooney, who's getting paid a buttload. Like, you got a lot going on there. Darian Kennard just went to Philadelphia, so that was like a backup guard that you had. Allegretti played himself into a bigger contract, probably.
Well, we do have Mike Caliendo waiting in the burner, in the wings. And I
That's
like
what I'm
Mike
saying.
Caliendo.
I do too, but I still feel like that's something they could be focused on that people don't think about.
Yeah. No, I
It's
totally
almost
agree.
like you could almost make an argument, barring quarterback, even though you could make an argument for that we need a good backup.
Right.
I feel like you can make an argument for every position on the field as far as draft goes.
Yes. And there's some good guards. When we go to pick, you could be able to look, there's a kid out of Kansas. If you guys are Kansas fans, Dominic Pooney, that kid right there can play tackle. He can play guard. He's a swing lineman down the board. He's got Andy Reid written all over him. He can play all 5 positions and he can start. Christian Mahogany out of Boston College is going to be a solid guard. But to be honest, you may get the top guard on the board. You got Troy Fontenot from Washington and Zach Zender from Michigan. Those 2 kids could fall there. Is that out of the question for a round 1 pick? I don't think you take a guard in round 1, but I'm just saying, like,
but is
you
that
got
not like
the
a
option to take those things high?
It's funny because that's like a Bill Belichick move. And by all means, I feel like that Brett Veach
did he do that with Cole Strange? Remember that?
Yeah. And by all means, I think Brett Veach, not saying that he's like mimicking what they do, but I think there's some similarities to how he's managing long term something so big like the dynasty. Like, he's got a lot, like, there's a way to go about this. And I think that looking at history and seeing guys that did it, you're going to take something from that. So, I mean, would I be surprised at anything? No, because that's totally, like I said, that's something Bill Belichick would do.
Right. Yeah, Brent said Pooney's not getting past the second round. I think Pooney's played himself into the second round for sure. That kid can play. He can play. He was pretty solid at the game they played just a little bit ago. I forget which one it was. Was it Reese's or Shrine? It was one of the two, but he was very solid there.
Do you think this is one that will really ruffle some feathers? And I'm not advocating this whatsoever, by the way. Just a disclaimer. Like, I'm not pushing for this whatsoever. But do you think it's a possibility that they would look for a center?
I had that thought because Creed has had so much problem snapping that ball.
He's had some issues come up, but it's not that he's still top 3 center in the league.
Andy still said that was something that he was working on, and he'll get better.
I think he switched hands or something.
Yeah,
I don't
switched
remember.
hands.
But either way, do you think, like, because Creed's gonna get a good contract? Like, he's
curious, yeah,
top 2 in the league. Like, now that Jason Kelsey's gone, he's definitely top 2. Yeah. Do you think maybe that's a position where they're like, man, we're gonna have to pay a lot for a center? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. There's just so many different ways you can go with it.
Creed right now, I mean, he's not making big money. In 2024, this year, this will be the last year of his contract. And he'll make $5.2 million on the cap. So his base salary is 4.8. He'll count 5.2.
You're welcome, Doug.
But yeah, you do have to re-sign him. I'm kind of curious to what he's going to go.
What his market value is going to be?
Yeah, like, I'm curious, but at the same time, they do not have a market value up for Creed. What was the last?
I'm not a proponent of getting rid of him. I'm not. I'm just saying, is that something that would cross a GM's mind? Like, dang, I'm gonna have to pay the center a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have a lot of things to take care of.
No, you're right. I hear that, and the thing is, where we pick at 32, you can always snag the best center in every draft. Like, you may get Powers Johnson out of Oregon, like, right in our lap. That's insane. and that kid's
Right.
so good.
I mean, you
but-
have to think Sneed was what, a 3rd-round pick?
Yeah, nobody wants to talk about the possibility. The people don't even want to talk about Trey Smith possibly not getting re-signed. But I don't think
Right.
Trey Smith's a lock to come back. It's easy
Man, I
to
love
replace.
him though.
It's easier to replace a guard though, right?
Yeah,
a lot of
it is.
positions.
Inside offensive linemen are easier to.
Now I
to
believe
replace.
that because they extended Spags, they've extended Spags. Spags absolutely loves Nick Bolton. So
Oh, yeah.
Nick Bolton has now, I think,
He's
because
solid.
of Spags, Nick
Yeah.
Bolton is now, because there was a lot of people in Chiefs Kingdom saying don't extend
Like,
Nick
there's
Bolton.
people that are in charge of other Chiefs media, like prominent people that think
Yeah.
Nick Bolton's not a good football player.
Yeah,
That's
they're-
how dumb and delusional some people are
And
when
dude,
it comes to Nick Bolton.
love you guys in the chat, but you guys watch those people and you guys listen to what they say.
Which is crazy that
There's
people
actually
that think that
sports
he's not
outlets
good.
that cover the Chiefs that think they have people working for them that think that Nick Bolton's not a good football player.
I mean, you have to be an idiot. And like I think even before the Spags extension, I think like it was a no-brainer to me. Like you gotta keep Bolton. He's running the defense out there. Like it's just stupid. Like that's a dumb opinion. But no, I'm with you now that Spags has been, Iron Price, slap nuts. They're all slap nuts. But I think I'm with you. To your point, with Spags being extended, that's almost a lock.
Yeah, I
Nick,
think
Nick Bolton's getting re-signed.
I think Nick Bolton and Creed are your two. I think honestly, I said it before. I think Nick Bolton should be the number one priority, even over Sneed. I think it's easier to replace that center at where we draft compared to finding another linebacker that does everything Nick
you
Bolton
meant Creed.
does.
You said Sneed, but Creed.
Oh yeah, Creed. I'm sorry. They're all rhyming together. Creed, Sneed, Creed, and I peed a little bit. I don't know.
Peed a little.
But yeah, I just believe that, like you said, with Trey Smith and Creed, love those two guys, but as a point we come from like not an analyst or whatever, but we come from a thing where we talk about making tough decisions like this, and we put ourselves in the mind frame of Brett Veach, and I know that people get mad at it.
Well, you have to throw the scenario out there, right? Like whether you believe, like I just did. It's like I love Creed Humphrey. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I would like to keep him. But at the same time, like you have to throw that out there, right? Like, I mean, you have to look at everything.
Right. Nick Bolton's great, but shouldn't get Fred Warner money. I don't think nobody said he's going to get Fred Warner money. I mean, that's getting a little out of control, but
I think he'll get a good, healthy contract. And I think that I don't think there'll be like a bidding war by any means for Nick Bolton, but
you'd be surprised.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams that
there's going to be a lot of teams trying to get after Nick.
It's kind of one of them things, kind of like Sneed, how there's like a lot of like a lot of fans and stuff outside of Kansas City don't really know a whole lot about Sneed or didn't anyway until the Super Bowl run. So it's kind of the same deal. Like I feel like outside of Chiefs Kingdom, like you don't hear a whole lot about Nick Bolton. You don't get the respect he deserves, but them other coaches and GMs and scouts, they know Nick Bolton. It's the same deal.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to see right now. Okay, so look, for inside linebackers, Fred Warner is making 24.4. I mean, that's crazy. CJ Mosley has the highest base salary at $17 million per season. Let's look at let me look at contract annual value. That's always a good one to look at. So Roquan Smith is at $20 million annually. Fred Warner's at 19. Tremaine Edmonds at 18. He won't fall in that category. CJ Mosley's at 17. Look, Steve, let me just name some inside linebackers and you tell me where Nick Bolton falls into. Like, who's he better than? Is he better than Quay Walker of Green Bay?
Yeah.
Zaven Collins.
Yes. That was the guy in the draft that everybody had above Nick Bolton, correct?
Alex Anzalone from Detroit.
I'm taking my boy Bolton, okay?
Eric Kendricks.
We don't have to do this exercise.
Well, I'm just saying. I want to know where he stops. Let me just go up a little. Does he beat Caden Ellis from Atlanta? Yeah. Does he beat Demario Davis? Demario Davis had a heck of a year. I'd say he's somewhere in that range. I'd say he's somewhere between 5 and 8. So he's somewhere between $9 to $14 million annually. So you'll just say you take $11 million annually. Would you pay Nick Bolton 4 years, $44 million? Is that out of the question?
That's chump change for a guy that's running your defense.
That's my opinion too. I just don't see it. I don't think that's overpaying either.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, let's see here. Doug, he says defensive tackle a lot more valuable than cornerback, in your opinion?
Yes, 1,000%.
Yeah.
I think the Chiefs have shown you that. No, don't get me wrong. We got good corners. We've got great corners. I mean, Sneed's literally one of the best, and Trent McDuffie's going to be right there too. So, yeah, we have two great corners. But I think at the end of the day, look, who impacts the game more? Did Aaron Donald impact the game more, or did Jalen Ramsey? Which one did they get rid of? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think defensive tackles are always going to impact the game more. You're closer to the quarterback, and you can disrupt more.
Jalen Ramsey might be the most overhyped
Steve, what about
player.
this one?
I swear.
What if the Eagles? We said Hassan Reddick, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if they were like, hey, we'll give you A.J. Brown and a pick?
I don't like what A.J. Brown did this year.
But we'll give you A.J. Brown and a pick. Would you take a second-round pick in A.J. Brown? Would you take a third in A.J. Brown for Sneed?
Yeah. Is that even a question?
Would you take a fourth in A.J. Brown for Sneed? Would you just take A.J. Brown for Sneed straight up then at that point?
Maybe.
I'm just asking because, look, he don't want to be there, but he's under contract, right?
Right, but also, what's that contract like? Like, how much money we talking here?
I don't know, but I feel like if it comes in, they would have to.
There's levels to this.
Yeah, they would have to eat some. That's why it's hard to predict trades, but
yeah,
they would have to eat some, and then he would probably restructure. You'd have to restructure to what we wanted, right?
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, if they could make the money work, yeah. I mean, I don't like I love AJ Brown. I love the way he plays. I've always liked him, but I don't like necessarily how things went with him in Philly. I don't think it gave him the best look as far as like locker room guy or like upstanding. You know, I don't know about it.
Right. Duncan says, are they going to keep or cut O'Menihue?
It's a tough one.
If it were me, I'd cut him. And I know that people don't like that, but I think cutting you saves you money this year.
Especially because he's probably not going to play all year.
Yeah, he's probably going to miss a lot of games. Look, he missed 6 last year. Okay, but he did put up when he was in there. But the fact that he's already come out saying that he's disrespected, he don't get paid enough now. Like, to me, those are the kind of guys. Like, I like Charles Omenihu, not saying he's a bad guy. But the people that are always just worried about being, I don't get paid enough. I'm underpaid my salary.
Everyone look at me. Look at me. Look how good I am.
Yeah, it's like, come on, dude. You signed with a team that give you a shot. You did okay, but we had to eat a 6-game suspension on you. And it's like, this is what we're talking about. I would cut him. And I'm telling you, that's why I think defensive end's a priority. If they was to throw $50 million, $60 million at Brian Burns even, I wouldn't even be sad about it. I don't know how you can't do that with Chris Jones obviously needing to be signed. But I'm just saying, like, I think defensive end might be something that they got to try to address.
Yeah. Well, no, you hit the nail on the head with Charles Omenihu, though. Like, I thought he was good and everything, but, like, I just feel like that type of attitude is just a big turnoff. Like, to me, it's like, yeah, you were good, and you got acknowledgement for that. Like, we all said that Charles Omenihu was very good this year.
Yeah, there's not one person
but it wasn't
that said
enough.
Charles Omenihu wasn't great.
It wasn't enough. He needs all the attention, and he needs everyone telling him how great he is, right? And, like, I understand he's been through some unfortunate stuff. He had to do the 6-game suspension. Now he got hurt, and he played very good when he was there. But at the same time, like, the greats, they let their play speak for itself. Like, people don't have to ask, like, great players don't have to ask you to acknowledge them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
That's a weird look for me.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. I thought I had some more news, but I didn't.
I just got
alerted. I'd got alerted.
DoorDash or something.
No, it was the same alert about Sneed was able to seek trade. Dang,
man. Your alert's behind.
Well, no, it had come through at the right time. I just hadn't to check my phone, but I just thought it was true. Brian Parrott says pass rush always improves secondary. Yeah,
that's
1,000%.
True. Very
1,000%.
True. I mean, what do you think? What do you think L'Jarius Sneed is L'Jarius Sneed? I'm not saying that he won't be good on another squad, but Chris Jones is a big reason that L'Jarius Sneed is as good as he is.
Chris Jones is the reason that Charles Omenihu done so well. Let's be honest. Omenihu's crying about.
That's what's funny is everybody talks like, well, you got that little section of Chiefs Kingdom that's like, we don't need to pay Chris Jones. It's like, you don't realize how much better he made L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, Charles Omenihu, George Karlaftis. He makes them all better. by what
Steve,
he's able to garner attention wise.
let's have a little exercise. Okay, a little exercise here.
Let's do
Not that kind, even though we need it. Let's give the Chiefs. Let's give the Chiefs 1 year. You can do 1 year deals on everybody we've got, and I'm going to give you $50 million for 1 year deals.
Good Lord, bro. What are we trying to do here?
Give me 3 players that you would like to sign out of all of our free agents for 1 year deals for $50 million. Chris Jones has to be on that board. I'll say Chris Jones
Chris Jones is going to take every bit of $25 million.
He'll take
half Chris Jones.
We'll say 28. We'll do 28.
Okay. So write it down.
Right.
Whatever you got to do. All right. Let's see here. I think after Chris Jones, your priority has to go to. I think
you have $22 million.
I have $22 million. I'm signing back Drew Tranquil.
That's your second move.
I don't know if it's like second priority, but he's definitely on the list.
So we'll say maybe, at a 1 year deal. What's his value?
This is 1 year? I'm assuming trading Sneed. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Chris Jones. We got $50 million. I can sign back as many as I want, right? What's the market value on Drew?
I'm not 100% sure. I would think it's somewhere around.
Hold on, I'll tell you.
5 to 7 million, somewhere in that range.
5 million. 5 million. Write it down. 5 million.
Right. So we'll say Drew at 5. Okay.
So that puts us at what? 32.
The whole funny thing about this
million?
exercise is you've probably got more than that to deal with. But
okay,
we're also
let's
doing
keep
just
going.
1 year deals. Yeah.
Just doing the 1 year deals. Let's go.
You've got 17 mil. You got to get a receiver. You getting a receiver?
I want Mike Dana, but it's like we're just doing Chiefs players that we have to re-sign, right?
No, anybody in free agency.
Oh, okay. I thought you totally worded that like, who do we sign?
No,
back?
I want everybody. Like, I want 3 players from all of our free agency positions we've got. You get $50 million. What's the highest impact 3 players you can get for $50 million?
Oh,
that's why I was thinking. I know Drew Tranquil's great, but I didn't know if he was a top 3.
No, I thought you meant just Chiefs that we're signing back.
No, but still, you've got to do Chris Jones, correct?
Yeah, Chris Jones is number 1 on the list.
So you still just got 22 mil.
Man, I say you just beg Mike Evans to take 22 million and don't worry about the third person.
That's funny.
No, let's see. Realistically, let's go. I don't know, man. What's Chase Young going to garner there? I know it was a lot cheaper than Mike Dana.
It was 13 to 15, so you can just say 14 right in the middle.
I'm good there. Go on. Let's pull our list back up.
Well, if you had 14,
we got to go receiver, right? We got to get the receiver. Let's go to receiver.
Look, if you took Chase Young, that's 14 and give you 8 for a receiver.
I'm not spending 14 on Chase Young.
Okay.
I would much rather spend that on a receiver.
Okay.
Who do we got? Let's take
Marquise Brown, Curtis Samuel, Mooney, Ridley. You could give Ridley 17.
Man, that's a tough one too.
That would give you $5 million more.
Can we weasel Ridley down to like 15 million?
I'll give you 16 on him.
Let's go 16 Calvin Ridley.
I'll give you 16 on Ridley. We just had a contract negotiation. Okay. So you got $6 million. You got to sign one other thing. Is it a tackle? You got to go get your tackle? That's $6 million.
Donovan Smith. Here's $6 million. That's what you get.
Okay.
Everybody keeps talking about Tyler Lockett, and I get it. We even talked about this before we had a whole video.
But he is not on the market just yet.
He's literally got to get cut before he's even available. We were just talking about an article that referred to him as possibly being a cap casualty for the Seattle Seahawks. That's not happened yet. So, I mean, to say that you want Tyler Lockett, or even I see General saying Alvin Kamara, like these guys are still under contract. Like they're not available.
Right. They have to be cut first.
Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't know about that. I just know Chris Jones has got to get done. That's the main thing. That's number 1 priority. I think number 2 priority is figuring out what you want to do with Sneed, whether we sign him long term or not.
That exercise shows you in a way, though, how people misconstrue what Brett Veach does and how the cap works. Because we're going to have somewhere around $50 to $60 million we can spend. But did you see you only got 3 players in, and Brett Veach has got to get 25 in?
Right, because
which
Chris
means
Jones
they're
is gonna
not all
garner half
1-year
of that,
deals.
right?
They wait the
Right.
contracts, but that just shows you. So when people's like, "You can't have him. We don't have enough money," it's like that's not how this works. They find ways to get these guys in.
You know, just real quick before we wrap up today, that was an intriguing thing that you brought up about AJ Brown, because we know that Brett Veach tried to trade for AJ Brown when the Eagles got him. So there's like a want there. Like obviously Andy Reid, Brett Veach, and all of them were like, "Hey, we like what AJ Brown's doing. Let's try to get him," because we know they tried to trade for him.
Right, that's true.
Right. So like that's a very intriguing one there. Do you trade Sneed in a package to get AJ Brown? But does what AJ Brown did at the end of last season throw a wrench in those gears? Do you think that changes things up?
Right. I don't know, man. I really do not know.
Because his play was great. Like he was still good. He was still the receiver everybody thought he was. But just the fact that he literally like threw a hissy fit and then just kind of quit on his team. That's a rough one. I don't know if you can. That's almost a disqualifier.
It's weird.
But I don't know. I don't know both sides of that story. Like, I mean, you got his side, their side, and then you got the truth out there somewhere. So who even really knows what happened?
Right. Pono says, "What's the fascination with Hollywood Brown? I haven't seen him on highlight reels all season." Well, I mean, he's playing in Arizona, so that's a disaster.
He has a quarterback that is 4'11". Which a lot of people wanted to give me crap about my what's his name earlier, Daniel.
Oh yeah, Jaden Daniels.
And that's my only point. Like obviously he's a top 5 talent, and I'm pretty sure a team's probably going to take a stab at him. But in my head, I'm just like, another little guy. Like, is this what we're doing? Like, have we not learned our lesson? Like, I mean, look at Bryce Young last year. Everybody was so sure that he was better than CJ Stroud. How'd that turn out?
Right. Can we watch some of this Hollywood Brown
We can watch a little Hollywood Brown before we wrap up, Mike.
Look, let's watch a little Hollywood Brown. This is from 2023. He's catching an end around out of the backfield. He's got the speed. He's got the shiftiness. This is exactly what Chiefs are looking for, are we not?
I mean, he can do everything McCole Hardman can do 100 times better.
That's a contested catch. Every receiver on our team would have dropped that ball 3,000 times before they caught it.
I don't know about that, but
well, I'm just saying, like he's catching these in traffic. Like he's getting hit. He's catching these in traffic. These are horribly thrown balls. That was a good thrown ball. He caught it, took a whopping, and hung onto the ball. He's just an explosive, dynamic playmaker. And this is with the Cardinals that they don't have nothing else to focus on. You know what I'm saying? Like the Cardinals have no other weapons that you have to focus on. I don't even know who's throwing him the ball here. Is this Josh Dobbs?
Whoever was backing up Kyler Murray, I'm sure.
Like, look at him go up and get it outside of his catch radius. This was a 3rd and 8, and he just gets the feet in and drops a dime right there. He's a red zone threat. Look, Hollywood Brown is solid. In my opinion, this is why we put him at number 1 on our list, because for the money at $15 million a year, I think this dude does everything Brett Veach and Andy Reid would want.
Right. And Pono says draft worthy out of Texas. He's a spitting image of Hollywood. Well, the thing about it is like, even if he is, there's a lot of guys that you think look like another person, but that's not necessarily how this is going to play out.
Well, he's not actually.
Right. But I'm for conversation's sake.
Right.
Even if he is, he's not proven whatsoever. Like, what Hollywood Brown can do.
Xavier Worthy's body frame is nowhere near as big as Hollywood Brown. Like, he's not going to hold up as well.
Right. I'm not sold on Xavier Worthy, by the way. I know
I've got to watch more on Xavier Worthy.
They're talking about Ryan from RGR liked him. I saw somebody said that earlier. I think we talked about it for a second, but like, I don't hate Xavier Worthy. I'm not opposed to it, but I've not seen anything that's made me be like, this is the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what we got to have.
I mean, if that play right there by itself doesn't sell you on Hollywood Brown coming to KC, I don't know what does.
What are we talking about here?
This one right here. Whoops. And he's gone up the field. Look at this.
Look at him. He's a little Kadarius Toney.
I'm just saying, yeah, he does what Kadarius Toney should be doing, but he's built better. I don't know. Just I really think where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think when we were talking about maybe a Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown trade earlier in the year, I really think the Chiefs were interested.
Do you think Hollywood Brown is worth $5 million more a year, or even $4 million more a year than, say, a Curtis Samuel?
It's tricky. I think Hollywood Brown does what Curtis Samuel don't, as in I think Curtis Samuel is very reminiscent to what we already have in Rashee Rice. Right? Don't you feel like Rashee Rice is kind of
they're very similar players.
He's way more similar than he would be to Hollywood Brown. So I feel like Hollywood Brown is a guy.
Well, I've seen a lot of the tape on Hollywood Brown where he's kind of doing a lot of the same things as Curtis Samuel, like running the ball out of the backfield, the same kind of, like they're similar.
Look, if you want a player that's going to run the ball out of the backfield and is going to be a physical guy, then by all means, trade up in the second round and draft Malachi Corley. Because he's Deebo Samuel waiting to happen. But this kid right here can stretch the field. I think he's a legit number one option with a Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. You don't have to sell me on Hollywood Brown. I mean, I was right there with you putting him at the top of our list. So
right.
Yeah.
But that's kind of shout out Simply AS10 for the nice YouTube video. If you haven't clicked that one, I'm going to click like on that video for him. Look at that.
Yeah, like that. And speaking of that, like this video. We appreciate that. It helps the channel, and it's free, and it takes 2 seconds. So go hit the like button. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscribe button. All kinds of Chiefs content, a lot more draft stuff getting ready to come your way, a lot more free agency as it unravels. We'll try to cover that the best we can, and things like that. But just shout out real quick, Iron Price with the new membership. Yogi been a member for 4 months now. HD Chiefs fan been a member for 5 months now. And then we had Enrique and Chris Wright both gifting memberships, one from Enrique, 10 from Chris Wright. And then shout out JCP, Javier Sanchez for the super chats. You guys are awesome. Super chats and stuff, they go a long way. We're trying to do this more, put more effort into this, do more content. But like right now, I got to get this wrapped up because I have to go to work, because I don't even know if I've made minimum wage here today, but I got to go make some money to pay the bills. So, yeah. So if you want more content, you want good content, support the channel, and you can do that in a lot of different ways. Also, merch.allchiefedup.com. Go grab you some merchandise over there. You're in your last day or two to get free shipping on anything from our merch store. Just use the code champions, but that ends at the end of February. And then also patreon.com/allchiefedup. You can become a member there for $10 a month. And we're getting ready to load that up with a lot of draft content as well.
Right. And again, the combine's coming up this weekend, Steve. Our schedules don't really provide for us to go live a lot to do this, but we will be live on Saturday, and we'll be able to talk about it. Maybe randomly we can go live again early in the day and talk about certain things, or just at random times. So if you see us pop in live randomly, I mean, by all means, come over and join us. And if you miss it, don't worry about it.
Yeah, you'll probably see a lot of random live streams during free agency for sure. Because I mean, like with our schedules being crazy, when news drops, like that's the most feasible thing for us to do, is to go live and talk about it, as opposed to making a video, editing a video, and all that. So we'll definitely be doing a lot of that. So be on the lookout for it. Also, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I think I'm supposed to be going on the Spoken with Lance Twidwell and his brother on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, noon Central. So if you want to see my beautiful face over there, you can check that out. But yeah.
Oh, by the way, Steve, I didn't even tell you this, but I've been working on a guest for our show.
Uh-oh.
I think Chiefs Kingdom's going to absolutely love it if I can pull this off. I'm right now speaking to their agent, and he's supposed to be calling me any day now to talk about this.
Well, see, I was going to ask
a prominent coach. By the way, that's who it is. It's a coach.
Don't throw it out there. You don't want to get people's hopes up.
I'm not going to throw it out there just in case, because it doesn't feel like the kind of coach or the kind of personality that would even want to come on a podcast. And that's why the agent's going to run it by him. it's probably going to get shot down pretty quick because it just don't seem like a guy that would like to get on a podcast and talk about it. But we're going to try it.
Give it a shot.
So, you want to take a guess? You just want to take any random
Eric
guess? I won't
Bieniemy.
even tell you if you're right. You think Eric Bieniemy?
That would be my first guess.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll have to
I feel
find
like it's
out.
got to be Chiefs related, obviously.
Oh, yeah. It's not like Deion Sanders or something.
Right,
crazy.
right. That'd be hilarious.
It's Nick Saban, by the way. He's going to come on and talk about the draft. No, I'm joking. But yeah, we're going to try. No, it's not Andy. I see Chiefer said Andy. Dude, it'd be fun to have Andy Reid on this. Like, he's hilarious.
I don't even care to have Andy Reid on the podcast, which would be freaking amazing, by the way. But I'd just like to hang out with Andy Reid for like 30 minutes, like eat a burger with him, just pick his brain.
Should we go to KC and try to eat a burger with Andy Reid? Should that be a video we try to make? Like, we're on a journey to find Andy Reid and have a burger.
So, like, you know how
we should
we
make
had
a documentary.
Right. We had the goal of getting 20,000 subscribers before this season ended. So, like, do we make a goal for next year? Like, before next season ends, we're having a burger with Big Red.
That's funny. Should we do it? We should document our journey, too. Like, we should just go to Kansas City and knock on doors and be like, do you know where Andy Reid lives?
Let's figure it out.
We're trying to eat a burger with Andy.
Any way possible. Like, push it all over the internet. We got to get it out there to
You
Andy.
think if we go to Arrowhead, just knock on the door of the offices, Andy will come out and eat a burger with us?
Whatever we got to do. Like, we might
Come
have
on,
to get kicked out of a few places.
Brian says it better not be friggin' Jim Harbaugh. Jim or John, either one, it's not going to be hardballs. We're not doing it.
How about no?
Yeah. But I'll try it. But anyways, yeah, that's all I got for y'all today. I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button on the way out. Thanks for subscribing, hitting that bell. Steve, I got 2 words for you.
Suck it!
No, go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
There goes a sight from my soul.